Looking for the equalizer. He wants it all on one play, and he's got it. Beautifully designed. Ben Sims, the tight end, into the end zone for the touchdown.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Kellen Mond, empty backfield. Throws to the corner. Man's there, and he's got it. Touchdown, and it's Aniyah Smith.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Yep, bouncing outside, it is Kyron Williams. He will go the distance. Notre Dame touchdown, Kyron Williams.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Lines up. Picked up. And that's your ball game. Trey Brown. And that'll be the story of this game for Oklahoma. The Oklahoma defense forcing turnovers like never before.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go on this Wednesday afternoon. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports on our YouTube channel. We have a new member of our staff. We're going to introduce him in just a moment. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left. I'm David Smoak, and we will take you over the next 3 hours. We're going to discuss a little bit about the Baylor quarterback situation that really, I don't know if anyone knows the answer to what happens when they open up against Texas State. We will also drop in on A&M, Oklahoma, and Notre Dame, all three among the top 10 teams in the country. We'll have our Cowboys segment with John Machota at 5. Paul's Top 5 comes up in 2.5, almost 3 hours. And then a few things to get to. Let's start with this box that's on the set. This is from our great friend, Travis Carver from T-Rex, one of the most passionate fans of a school you could ever imagine. Paul, this is Crumble?
Crumble, yeah, here in Waco. And listen, all around our viewing area, all over the country, there's crumbles everywhere.
So the Willis Law Firm sent us some Tips Treats a week or two ago, and now T-Rex now with this, the box that we have started to get into a little bit. So thank you to T-Rex, appreciate it. And thanks to Crumble as well, the party box of numerous cookies that I have already had myself a little bit of a taste of as well. All right, so congratulations to Davion Mitchell, former Baylor All-American national champion. He is, in fact, now a part of the Summer League championship. I know it's the Summer League, but he has now won at every level he's ever played. And AAU won an SEC championship when he was at Auburn, a Big 12 title at Baylor, a national title at Baylor, and also won the Summer League. And he was fantastic in the Summer League. And congratulations to Davion Mitchell. Off night was really good last night in the championship against Boston.
Yeah, and Craig, if he can win a title the place that he's going, then he really does have the magic touch.
Yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. Davion, though, has been great, and that's a nice graphic that I guess Baylor put together, so kudos to their graphics team. That's the kind of stuff you want to put out there. That's the kind of graphic you want to show people and to promote your program and to entice recruits. And so he's given them a lot of ammunition to work with in recruiting right now, and already did before the NBA Summer League. And look, I could care less about the NBA Summer League. I don't know too many people that really do care about the NBA Summer League. I mean, outside of the coaches and players involved, and I know the diehards may get into it, but fact of the matter is it's not a big thing, but Davion Mitchell actually brought some electricity to it. Davion Mitchell actually had people talking about NBA Summer League, and there were a couple of other Baylor guys that were the same way. Ish Wainwright with the Raptors became a great story. Maceo Teague with the Jazz became a great story. So Summer League is something that if it went away, I'm not sure how many people would even notice, quite frankly. But the fact of the matter is it's been a beautiful thing for Baylor this summer, and we'll see where it takes these guys as the regular season rolls around.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I rarely have ever watched the Summer League. There have been some players that played at Baylor, or maybe somebody or two on occasion. I would never have even been able to tell you how many games they played or who had won the Summer League or who wins it next year. I probably won't pay attention to that, but it was nice to see because Maceo Teague put up a lot of points in his last game. Jared Butler didn't play. And there was Mark Vidal and Freddie Gillespie among some others. So I thought it was pretty neat. And that picture we put up yesterday with Scott Drew and coaches and players was fantastic.
I mean, for somebody who's got a guaranteed spot in the league like Davion does, Maceo does not, Ish does not, but Davion we know does. And for somebody who's a top 10 pick and probably could have not even played in Summer League and been okay, quite frankly. He's just raised expectations. He's got Kings fans excited, and there was a clip, and there's been several of these clips now over the last couple of weeks where, it's just a situation on defense where he, manned up on, one of the other Summer League standouts, one of these other guards that's, I think he had like 90 points or something in an amateur game the other night. Like this whole thing that, again, if you follow Summer League, you're into, but if you're not, you're like, whatever. But anyways, he manned up on this guy, forced a shot clock violation ultimately, and you saw like mid-defense, the Kings bench get up off their feet and start getting hyped, getting crazy for this defense he was playing, and that's a culture thing, man. That's a culture thing he's brought entirely by himself in the last month. I mean, that's what Davion Mitchell does, and so now he's got Kings fans who haven't been excited for anything in a long time. They're like cheering good defense. I mean, it's like, what in the world? So that's the kind of difference maker he is, and Baylor folks know that all too well.
What's going to be funny is next year when he doesn't have to go to the Summer League and the Kings tell him, like, no, you don't have to do it. And he's like, no, I'm going.
I want to play. I want to play. He's a gym rat, and, of course, a lot of them that won that national title on that team were that way as well. Here's a text from the area code 505 from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Idea for the Big 12, go in the offensive, take 6 new teams. And let's finish this out. Colorado, Nebraska, Brigham Young, Boise State, Cincinnati, UCF. We've heard some of those names before. This would leave the Pac-12 and Big 10 with uneven divisions. Don't know if that's a problem. And then what the answer, of course, my answer was we appreciate it. Nebraska's not leaving the Big 10, even if they're upset about anything, at $50+ million a year and growing. The nest egg is what it's all about, right? The nest egg. The Big 10 is a nest egg. The SEC is a nest egg. So no one's leaving those conferences, at least not anytime soon. And the Pac-12, anybody, Colorado, I don't think anyone has to leave right now because they're still somewhat secure. The Big 12 is the one that seems like it's on an island. Appreciate the response, and also we appreciate the text, but that's not going to happen. But,
no, I mean, that would be the equivalent of being on the ocean, and you're on like a sturdy ship that's fine and it's going to get you to your destination, but you decide to hop off to go jump on the ship that's sinking. Like that's what Nebraska would do by leaving the Big Ten. So they're not going to jump off their cruise liner that's a couple days away from a rival and safe and sound and sturdy to go jump on the Titanic that's halfway underwater, because that's basically what that would be. So while it's, Nebraska makes sense in these rumors and stuff that come up just because of the whole way their Big Ten situation has played out and, the fact that there hasn't been a lot of great success, but that money, again, that's what it all comes back to, all boils down to. And like you said, they're not passing up tens of millions of guaranteed dollars every year and security and safety to go try and jump into the Big 12 again.
Well, and one thing I think people get in their heads about this is that any of this has anything to do with winning football games. Right. It doesn't, because if it did, you could take the worst team from every conference. Like you could take Kansas and Vanderbilt and, Washington State at times in the Pac-12 and, Wake Forest and do all that, Purdue, whatever. But you take the Rutgers, and they could take and make a conference that those teams could win because they'd play each other. They wouldn't have to play each other all the time. But it's not about that. It's about winning. That's why Vanderbilt won't leave the SEC unless they get kicked out, because they could go other places and probably win more. It's not about that. It's about the money you get for getting your teeth kicked in.
And they won't get kicked out because they bring up the grades too much. I mean, so it's academics, it's financials, and that's real, and TV rights, and that's like the main things.
Winning doesn't come into it.
It's not the winning. No. It's not like the basketball program. It's not geography even. It's not rivalries. It's not any of the things that people think that it actually is, or that would assume that it actually is. Rivalries are dead. Like rivalries, we're getting A&M and Texas back. We'll have A&M and Oklahoma, A&M and Oklahoma getting back together. We'll have, some of those, Arkansas, obviously, and Texas, Arkansas and Oklahoma. That'll all be great. But, we're going to lose some. And you know what? Like some of the past realignment, it forced that. This realignment's forcing that. So it's not all that different. And I think it's pretty clear at this point that even though A&M's reconnecting with Texas and Oklahoma, that it's not because of those rivalries. It's because it's because Texas and Oklahoma, much like A&M, saw the grass is way greener on the SEC side, and so they're just going and jumping on the life raft before everybody else gets a chance to.
I think it's safe to say that tradition and rivalries is based on perhaps what neighborhood you can stay in or where you're going, because a lot of them are on life support, and quite frankly, it just doesn't mean quite the same to keep those things together. We saw that when the Big 12 was formed with Oklahoma and Nebraska not being in the same division, and then all of a sudden now they haven't played in forever. Now they play this year, and it will be a rout at some point, I'm sure, that game between Oklahoma and Nebraska. Jerry Hill's going to join us at 3:25 in the Baylor quarterback battle. I gave him the comment from Craig, what you said about the Jacob Zeno crowd that was constantly chanting his name. And Jacob's a great kid, and it could be an incredible quarterback. We don't know that. But Jerry's going to come on with us and give us more of an insight of what he has seen. He probably has a little bit more access than we do about there is no number one right now. Not sure the coaching staff knows who that is. We can't talk to them other than Dave Aranda, so he'll join us, the first guest at 3:25.
Yeah, no, when it comes to realignment, just going back to that for a second, whatever your scenarios are that you're playing out in your head, or whatever ideas that you're coming up with, and we've loved all the ideas and all the scenarios that people have presented. I think we've all enjoyed, kind of all that the last few weeks. Just get it out of your mind that, that 100-year rivalry is going to matter in the decision. It's not. Get it out of your mind that, friendly alliances are going to matter. They're not. Get out of your mind that any of the things that you think are what's important matter, because they don't. It's really just the money. It's the, the conference allegiances. It's the money more than anything else is what it is.
It's the only thing, really. Yeah. All right, so here's a text from Eric, and this is a very good point back to Davion Mitchell winning the Summer League with Sacramento. Seeing how Davion and Maceo Teague did against other potential pros this summer makes it hard to believe that those dudes were on the same college team. How could we not win the Natty and blow out teams in the Final Four? Eric and Lubbock, and of course Mark Vidal. Freddie Gillespie wasn't on the team, but he was the year before. And then Jared Butler, who didn't play in the Summer League, but also was drafted by Utah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a special group. That's why they won a national title. And, there was a lot of excitement for them last year before the season began for a reason, and a lot of that had come from what they had done the year before and just what was sort of building. And I think people realized across basketball that, hey, there's something kind of special here now. Unless it was like Fran Fraschilla, everybody was stuck up Gonzaga's most of the year, but that was a memorable national championship game, to say the least. It was one of the most viewed broadcasts this year, and a lot of people got to watch just a total butt kick, and it was incredible, and that was a special team, and I don't know, we'll see a team like that no matter how good they recruit, just like the chemistry, the ability to have so many different transfers that were around for like 2-3 years. That was a special run, no doubt about it.
Yeah, we had lunch with David Kay last week, and he was just talking about how it was weird from their perspective that all of a sudden, national perception was like once Baylor got sick, once they got COVID, it was like, well, they're done. Mm-hmm. And like all this stuff had flipped when Baylor, if you look at their quality wins versus Gonzaga's, it wasn't comparable. Gonzaga had a couple nice wins early in the year, but once they got out of their non-conference schedule into the conference, Baylor's blown out teams that are in the tournament in the Big 12 every night. And then Gonzaga's, winning their conference, but it was apples and oranges schedule-wise. And, Smokey and I, we should, for the documentary, I should send them the text chain if I can find it of all the different things that you and I would go back and forth on. And I just had this feeling that, once they play Gonzaga's never seen anything like this before.
No, and it was men among boys, even though Gonzaga was a fantastic, an unbelievable team. And who knows, if they start better, maybe somehow they change or flip the switch. But Baylor men's basketball was strong. They were the best team across the board. They lost to Oklahoma State in the tournament. Oklahoma State was playing well at the time, and they lost the game at Kansas, and they lost that game. Oh my God, I just went blank. And one other game,
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. That was the one in the tournament. Yeah. But those were the games, and that was right after. And once they got their legs underneath of them, my goodness, they were a bulldozer like they were right before they had the shutdown as well. All right, now. We'll have Jerry Hill at 325. There's, for me, some of you are asking about the shadiness of Nebraska football. That means maybe they're trying to win again. I don't care. Do whatever you have to get above 500, get bowl eligible. Scott Frost and his staff are under fire for what could be analyst or whatever working when they shouldn't have been, or an off-this-campus site to do some strength and conditioning or whatever it was during the shutdown of COVID. I'm being tongue-in-cheek here, but my God, anything.
I'm not.
God, go send a suitcase of cash to somebody, a blue chip player. Go
just
get
say
him.
it's for your local couch store or something.
Yeah.
When I heard this and heard that Nebraska had these violations, and before I knew what it was, alleged violations, when I had these things, but it's extra practices and doing strength off campus and violating COVID protocols and all that, given how mad Scott Frost was that the Big Ten tried to cancel the season last year, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that he decided to take matters into his own hands. It doesn't make it right, but it's one of those things that's the least surprising NCAA crime in the world. And if I'm Scott Frost, I've been like, yep, you got me. Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to see what Nebraska does this year. I was full on the Scott Frost train when he came over from UCF, the whole reunion with Nebraska, and I just felt like that was going to be the perfect situation for them to bring in a young coach like that who's played there, who had massive success there, won a national title, all that. And man, it has not been anything close to what I thought. And I'm not sure how much of that's on him. I'm not sure how much is like I don't know what all is built up to lead to where they are right now. But it's obviously a very important year for him. Not the topic you want to be talking about. Also, not something that you're probably scared to death of either at this point with the NCAA. But, they could use a good headline, I guess is what I'm getting at. Because it feels like for Scott Frost in Nebraska, ever since that marriage happened, it has been the opposite of what the storybook expectations were.
Well, their quarterback play has been horrendous, and Martinez is a little softer than I'd like. And the bottom line, they're just not very good. In fact, from who was this? Timothy. Please don't let Nebraska leave for another conference. Iowa's 6-0 since they joined. Timothy, I'm going to nuke you just for being true. Also, let's see. Other teams need to win. Don't let Nebraska leave because they have to become bowl eligible.
Man, isn't that crazy? That's where they are
true,
now.
Yeah.
And that's so wild. And look, I grew up in the 90s. Like, I'm a 90s kid. I was born in the 80s, but I was a 90s kid, basically. And look, man, there's 3 programs that mattered. It was Miami, Florida State, and Nebraska. Yeah. And that was then Tennessee towards the end, Florida, obviously, eventually. And then that all shifted. I mean, really, if you think about it, I know Oklahoma won a title after Nebraska. Nebraska played after OU won their title because that's when Nebraska got beat up by Miami.
Yeah.
But, I mean, really, it was those three teams, and then the SEC transition sort of started happening in late 90s, and then in the 2000s it really just sort of took off. But to think of those days and to think of, the jokes being made now, it's just crazy to me.
They were unbelievable at the time. Paul, you and I both in the same boat with that. From football, too many naive fans have bought into false narrative that college football is making sports programs rich. Many of those programs are losing tons of money, and that's why they're trying to get as much as they possibly can.
Well,
from Daniel, any Power 5 team is not going to leave their league. Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Nebraska are not leaving their various leagues. Just stop with that talk, whoever's saying it.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the club. You're not walking out of the club when there's a line. I used the ship analogy earlier, which is just a better one. But yeah, you're not jumping off the sinking ship to go jump, or you're not jumping off the safe ship to go jump on the sinking ship. That's not going to work out well for you. So yeah, those teams aren't going to move from their positions if they're already secured in Power Fives. And guys, I think the deal here is this is not about, even with the expanded playoff and the talk of what that's going to do for the group of fives and everything, this is not ultimately all these moves about really helping everybody. It's creating more separation, like the blue bloods, and then what teams are kind of considered bluish bloods because of their money or their tradition or whatever, even if the wins aren't quite there. They're basically planning out their exit strategy right now. That's what's happening, and they're not going to take all of Division I athletics with them. So if you're in one of those spots like Nebraska, no way in hell are you budging off of that, because you're in the in crowd right now, and there's going to be a lot of people that aren't a part of that crowd ultimately.
Yeah, it's not like the scene in Jerry Maguire where he got let go.
Yeah.
And then he went and said, "Who's coming with me?
Yeah,
Who's coming
like,
with me?"
No,
I mean, it's almost like that, except instead of Renee Zellweger popping up and saying she's going, she sits at her desk.
It's like,
I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Like there'd be no drama there. Like he'd be like, "Who's coming with me?"
Rutger stands up.
Yeah, no, I mean, nobody's going. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
All right, we'll take a break here. Jerry Hill will join us, the Baylor Bear Insider. We check in as well with A&M, Notre Dame, Oklahoma today. And we also will check in with the Cowboys and John Machota at 5 o'clock. There's a couple of other notes to get to. I did get this tweet from Bear Cave. Craig, this might be a good question. I don't know if it's relevant yet because they still don't even have the depth chart set. But
I do want to say one thing before I forget. Shout out to the person who sent me the Rick Rude story. I'm not going to mention you or anything, but I did see it, and I do appreciate that very much.
There were a lot of you that even after the show ended that continue to send things about professional wrestling, the history, the heritage, the lineage, and much more. Could ask anytime soon about the 2 open single-digit numbers. Would like to see those jerseys filled. I don't know if that is, I think it's still a deal, but yeah, and there's a lot of single-digit players back. I don't know where that stands, but we'll maybe ask if they're going to do that again this year.
Yeah, I mean, if we talk to Aranda today or whenever we next talk to him, I actually thought about asking that the last time, and it didn't fit into what we were talking about. But I've wondered about that, and at the same time, I've kind of not cared that much. You know what I mean? Like, it was a cool deal when Rule was here that he started up with the single digits, and it was cool that Aranda picked it up and, ran with it last year. But, yeah, all those guys, for the most part, are back. I mean, R.J. Sneed's in 0, and Treston Ebner's in hit, so on and so forth. So there are a couple spots, but there's been no talk about, filling those jerseys or anything. So we'll see next time we talk to him, but it's not been a topic, like I said.
When we come back, Jerry Hill on the Baylor quarterback story and what's happening from his eyes, that he has a little more access than most. And then also, again, A&M, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, back to back to back. Our chat room is going nuts. Appreciate all of you with questions, sarcasm, opinions, facts, statements, trash talking. Just don't get too personal. We love it. We appreciate you as a family. The text line is 254-339-1122. Hakeem Vance, former Baylor football player, is now a part of our staff of interns. Welcome, Hakeem, to be a part of what we do every day behind the scenes. Jack Hayden and Armstrong are here, and this is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They got the summer savings event going on right now over at Richard Carr. They're all about customer service. They're all about deals for you this summer. as well. They want you to be comfortable when you're out on the road, traveling with the family, just a little weekend getaway, whatever the case may be. You want to be in a vehicle that you feel safe to be in, that you feel confident in driving. And right now you can get some responsive power, some exceptional agility, and some advanced technology, all combined in a new Cadillac to bring a smile to your face on every drive. At Richard Carr Cadillac, they will find the right Caddy model for you, whether it's a smooth and powerful CT4 sedan starting at only $33,395, or perhaps it's the XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs in the style and size to fit your lifestyle. You can also get back on the road with space, safety, and luxury in Buick. Right now, well-qualified buyers get 0% financing for 72 months on most 2021 Buick SUVs. You head on over to Richard Carr, you'll also see that they are loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks, all of them priced to move, and each one going through a 172-point inspection before they ever hit the lot. With dozens of lenders, Richard Carr says yes when others say no. 100% credit approval is always their goal, and they are, if you're here in the Waco area, your local hometown dealership, so give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Come by the dealership and take a test drive, or you can get in contact with them, and they will set it up to bring the test drive to you. It's a summer savings event going on all month at Richard Carr, and they are owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
Since its inception, Pickup Outfitters has remained politically neutral. We love trucks of every persuasion, not just red and blue ones. But people keep asking us where we stand, and for this one time, we're going to break our neutrality. We oppose any government intervention or legislation to end truck nudity. We believe in the American right to drive nude vehicles. We think it's disgusting, we fight it every place we can, and we want to end it, but we want to end it the right way, peaceably. Therefore, we call on Congress and President Biden to respect the rights of truck owners. Our founding fathers didn't own a truck, but if they did, I bet they would have put a bed cover and running boards on their truck. The right to keep and bear your truck the way you want is fundamental to the fabric of this nation, and we believe in that right. So we urge you to come and take it at Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco. On the web at createacommotion.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobbettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday Wednesday after 2 or all day Saturday and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house-cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasonings, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, he's the owner of the Baylor Bear Insider, and back when there was a transition between athletic directors Ian McCall and Mac Rhodes, he was up for that position as well. Jerry Hill writes and covers Baylor athletics and on with Sikkim 365 Radio. Jerry, thank you for being a part of the show. So you get a little bit more opportunities, I would think, more eyeballs on what's going on, but Craig made the comment yesterday about the quarterback competition, and really right now there doesn't seem to be any kind of whatever of who is 1, 2, or 3. What do you see? Not that you can give us too much from the inside, but what do you see right now? Do you see any separation at all?
I would say probably not. I thought going in, and I still kind of hang on that I just think Gary winds up being the starter. He's a guy that's obviously been around. He's been here the longest. Man, David, I remember when he first came in, and he just, he couldn't even throw a pass. And he's obviously gotten a lot better since then. He's known more as a runner, but I think he's developed a lot better as a passer. And there's just kind of a calmness about him that certainly wasn't there, 3 or 4 years ago. So I think that's why I would kind of give him the edge going in. I'm not in the quarterback's room, so I couldn't tell you, exactly what they're thinking, but I do think it's very close. I mean, watching yesterday, I remember Blake Shapen threw a nice deep ball, which you hadn't seen a lot of that, particularly last year or the last 2 years, really. So, he threw a nice ball, but Jacob Zeno's had his moments too. I mean, they all have. So, you just got it. I added her up, or I looked at their stats. So you've got 2 guys that have combined for 64 passes in their careers. So, and that's a good day. Or, I mean, Charlie Brewer might have thrown that in a game. So, that's the thing that you're looking at is whoever goes in there just doesn't have a ton of experience.
Jerry, one of the things we were talking about yesterday is it's equally as important outside of picking the quarterback for everything around whoever that is to get better. So that being said, could the early quarterback decision just be who is best to deal with whatever shortcomings they have around him, offensive line or the running game, and then maybe the guy who's going to be the long-term starter doesn't really happen until the offensive line gets in a rhythm and the offense starts to grow in a system?
Yeah, I think that's important, Paul, because, you don't want – I mean, it's kind of like, when you draft a rookie quarterback, and if you've got a really bad offensive line, you don't want to put that guy out there and risk that right off the bat. And I'm not saying they're going to throw somebody out there, that's, just as, kind of the dummy guy. But I do think there's some of that like, hey, if you know that you're going to have to run a little more, is Gary Bohannon that guy? If you're not comfortable in the pocket, can you, do you have confidence in Jacob Zeno? Now, we'll say, Paul, being out there, and Coach Aranda talked about this a little bit up in Dallas, but there's so much depth in the offensive line, and at first glance you go, okay, they got a lot of more bodies. But you playing the position, I don't know if you'd agree with this, but that depth helps just in terms of reps at practice. You're not having, if you're Connor Galvin and you've been here 4 or 5 years, you're not having to go, every rep. I think that helps him throughout the season. But then I think the other part that you get that I is the reason why I think this offensive line is going to be better this year is you also have competition. I don't know the last time that they had really good competition for spots in the offensive line. You know, it was kind of like, okay, we've got these 5 guys, and that's ultimately your goal is you want to have these 5 guys. But if those 5 guys know they're the guys, why do they need to get any better? So I think that competition is going to make this offensive line better.
So, Jerry, would it be fair to say that if you were predicting an offensive line right now, you could put in Connor Galvin and then you'd leave everything else blank, basically? Because that's kind of where they are right now, right? Connor Galvin's established himself as the left tackle, it appears, but outside of that, it's competition at every single position still.
I agree with that. And I, the other one I would pencil in somewhere, Craig, is Xavier Newman. Okay. Because, I mean, you've been in the media stuff. You see how everybody mentions him, and particularly Aranda, when he just brags on him being a leader, and it's more than that.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I'll credit Xavier for, because I would not want to line up against Apu. And in that one-on-one stuff, he's going against, and he gets his butt beat some, but he hangs in there and he fights. And I think that's kind of what Coach Aranda was talking about, is that his fighting and his leadership is beyond anything he's seen from Xavier. And I think that's what he's seeing in practice, is a guy that will stand in there with this 6'4", 350-pound, just absolute beast. And he's going to lose some. But, man, if he wins once out of 5 or 6, he's a heck of an offensive lineman. So I think that's helping him. And I would pencil him in. I think Jacob Gall has got to play somewhere as well. Mm-hmm. Khalil Keith is a guy that I think they have a lot of confidence in right now. But you're right. I think, for 3 or 4 spots, but again, that depth is where I think you've got 8 or 9 guys that are competing for those spots, because I know they like Casey Phillips a lot. Mascua, the big offensive lineman, inside guy that's going to play at one of the guards, Grant Miller. I mean, all of those guys can play. So again, whoever they wind up with, and I think you're going to see more rotation too. And again, in the offensive line, I think that's big. Yeah, you want your 5, but don't you want a second 5 that is at least ready, that can take some of those snaps off of those guys? So if you can have a situation where you can rotate guys in and not lose much, I just think that makes your offensive line way better.
Yeah, and Eric Mateos told me, this is back during the break, that he doesn't think it's a talent issue, that it is a commitment and being focused at times issue. And some of these guys have let their clock run out or almost run out, and maybe that's the last straw that, hey, and Mascua you hear as a possible pro prospect. That's a former Matt Rule guy, so that wouldn't surprise a commitment to Matt Rule as well. So the Xavier Newman, Dave Aranda said something to us a couple of days ago or so, that it wasn't that he was in a dark place, but that guys around him, Xavier trusts them, not talent-wise or whatever, but he now feels comfortable with this group, and that maybe he's opened up his mind, and that is allowing him to play better.
And he kind of mentioned that a little bit in the post media, maybe after the scrimmage the other day. So yeah, I think that's part of it, and even in letting the coaches in too, Smoak. I think that was important. Like, now he trusts these coaches too. He was around the other guys for 3 years. This is his second year with this group. But if you think about it, well, and like with Mateos and Grimes and stuff, this is his first year with them. But, if you think about it, he had, even last year, did he really have a year with those guys? So I think that's been important for Xavier, is to be able to get to that point where, like he said, he's trusting the other players, but I think he trusts these coaches too. And I think Mateos and Grimes, I mean, they're both kind of O-line coaches. I mean, Grimes has the tight ends, but that's an O-line coach, going back most of his career, and he certainly looks like an offensive lineman. So I think the fact that you have both of those guys in there, he trusts them, and I think he's going to play for him. Like I said, maybe he doesn't wind up at center. That's where I've seen him a lot. But I think he's either at center or one of the 2 guards. I think he's in one of those 3 inside positions for you opening day.
Jerry, do you think there'll be a big learning curve with this offense, or do you think that it's straightforward enough to where these guys can kind of naturally groove into it?
Paul, if they had a year like last year where you didn't have a spring and you were learning on Zoom and all that stuff, I think this would be a difficult offense to learn. But I think the fact that they have had that, off season, the spring, even the summer, I mean, those guys are out there working, on their own and stuff a lot in the summer. And then, now into fall camp, I think they've got a good enough handle on it, and certainly through the spring. I don't maybe understand the wide zone as much as they do, but they seem to have a good grasp of it. And like I said, I think it was huge having that spring, having the off season and all that to be able to learn it. But yeah, if you had to throw this stuff out there with what they went through last year, I don't know how they would get it.
So, Jerry, a couple media sessions ago, the players were asked if they'd been, hearing or talking about realignment much, and it seems to be like a non-issue. And as I pointed out on the show, like R.J. Sneed, what does he care? He's not going to be here, past next year anyways. But for you, you've seen this happen before. You've seen the Big 12 and all their dealings. Just what have been your thoughts from the outside looking in on OU and Texas' departure and obviously now a very unsettled future for the remaining 8 Big 12 schools?
Yeah, and I will say, kind of like what you were saying, Craig, that with the players, I don't know that it really does matter right now. I mean, there may be some that, they're so used to playing Texas and Oklahoma, and that's all they've known. They're probably mad about it a little bit, but, as far as their immediate future, they don't care. I mean, they know who they're playing this year, and that's all that really matters to them. And maybe for the freshmen that just came in, or even, the recruits that are, either committed or, will sign in December, certainly that's a factor. But I don't think for these guys it really does matter. Now, in terms of what I think is going to happen, and I've talked at a couple of the service clubs, Craig, and I say I wish I knew, and one of the things that Max said, and I think it was with you guys, like who knows what it's going to look like in 25? I mean, that's 4 years down the road. Now, do I think Texas and Oklahoma will still be here in 24? I don't, but you hope that happens. That you hope that Texas and OU are here through that 24 season, and that you don't really have any kind of immediate need to just jump. But I think there's possibilities out there. I would ideally, I'd like to keep the Big 12 and maybe add some teams, but who do you add that really gives? You're not going to add a Texas or Oklahoma. We know that, but can you add somebody that really kind of gives you some oomph, that really makes a difference? Don't just add teams to add teams. Add some teams that are really going to make a difference and kind of give you again, you're not adding a brand name like Texas or Oklahoma. Right. But you can add some teams that will give you a little. Oh, hey, they joined them. They Big 12 must be viable if these guys joined them. So hopefully that happens. If not, and Baylor needs a landing place. I think with what they've done over these last how many ever years. I mean, if you even going back to the last decade, but particularly recently with the men's basketball winning national championship, women's basketball 2 years ago. Football being in the Sugar Bowl 2 years ago, and then the facilities. You look at everything. Baylor's in a good place. You just got to get a good landing spot if it's not in the Big 12.
Jerry, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Jerry Hill, Baylor Bear Insider, at View from Hill on Twitter. May see him a little bit later on today with media session. Thanks, Jerry.
I have to say, we just had a whole media session with Jerry. Did not bring up the NCAA investigation. Me and Grayson did a whole podcast, got to the very end of it until realizing we hadn't brought up the NCAA investigation. It's just wild to me how much that mattered for how long it mattered and how much it hasn't mattered since that announcement was made. It's like it never even happened. Am I the only one that feels that way?
No, it is.
It's like nobody even cares now. Like nobody, it's like
there's two
all
things.
That talk about all of it in the build-up, and then like it happens and just nobody's even talking about it. It's like, whatever. And I suppose it's like, yeah, you probably don't want to talk about it because you were talking about it for the last 5 years. But still, it's odd to me in a good way. It's still just very odd.
It'll be the same way when the Big 12 returns that money to Baylor sometime this fall, because it seems like that's been on the table, and that's a timeline. It's a calendar. It's not going to come until a certain day. It never was, no matter anything in between. And we try to explain that along the way. Thanks to a lot of you again on the chat, text line, phone calls, 254-339. 11:22, and some of you asking questions about Baylor at wide receiver. We have one more segment in this hour. It's going to be about Texas A&M. We'll take a break here in about 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, outside of starting quarterback in the O-line, they're good. I mean, so take that as far as you want to take it. They don't know who the starting quarterback is, and there's like 3 or 4 spots in the O-line that are unsettled at this moment. But outside of that, they're really loaded. I mean, they're pretty good everywhere else, but yeah, they have a ton of talent on defense and a defensive-minded head coach and a good defensive coordinator and a defensive staff, but they are uncertain on offense. But this has been building for much longer than just the last 2 years. It's been about 2016 that this kind of tidal wave was coming. Yeah, and so those are obviously glaring issues that could cause you to, add 3 or 4 wins or deduct 3 or 4 wins, but everywhere else they are pretty good. So we'll see. They're definitely have to use defense to win some games this year. It sounds like once again.
Someone is listening from Noster, Missouri. Bob Williams, thank you. Ashland, Oregon. Dallas, from Kentucky, West Virginia fan. From Ashland, Oregon is Louisiana, among many others. Appreciate it. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Ideal MRI, Dr. Rob Maxey. In fact, he contacted me earlier today on that article that we'll get into a little bit today, and also hope to get into a lot of it with Sam Bradshaw, S11, on our site, when Sam went back-to-back with what is the TV viewership numbers or whatever with the remaining 8 teams in the Big 12 compared to the AAC, in a story that was written in the Athletic by Stuart Mandel that Sam Bradshaw shredded. Dr. Rob Maxey's a huge sports fan. He also is one of the partners for Ideal MRI and IdealMRI.com, located in the Central Texas marketplace in Waco. And in that business, they check out why something hurts, whether it's a ligament or a muscle or something else that a doctor needs to see better. Orthopedic surgeon, hey, we need to get an MRI. You tell them about Ideal MRI. And again, they have state-of-the-art technology. I have been in that MRI machine a couple of different times, and it's amazing. The staff, the specialists, the techs, and the doctors who then send you and then call you and follow up and tell you what they see and send to whoever your doctor is exactly what they have as evidence. And they can save you money. It's on average, an MRI is $1,100. Ideal MRI is $497 or less every single time. IdealMRI.com.
Make this a summer event is going on now at Allen Samuels with the all-new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L, now arriving and in stock. This beautiful, rugged third-row seat carries the prestigious Jeep heritage. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo, with values of $3,500 or 0% for 48 months, plus $2,000 in bonus cash. Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Dumps it off underneath. There's Lane again. A lot of room to run. It's a foot race to the end zone. Touchdown, Texas A&M.
This segment with Olin Buchanan of TexAgs.com is sponsored by Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. With over 40 group exercise classes Monday through Sunday on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
All right, here we go. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 on YouTube. Olin Buchanan covers Texas A&M for TexAgs.com. And my goodness, Olin, so much has happened. We could try to get to some of it. But let's right now look at the football team. Where are they and what is the timeline of when they find out who their starting quarterback might be?
Well, as far as I know, they may know. They're just not announcing. I would not be surprised at all if Jimbo waited until, game week to announce. But nor would I be surprised if he told us sometime next week. I mean, we're obviously getting close. So I think that's some information that he's going to release in the obviously not too distant future. But as far as whether they're going to go with Zach Calzada or Haynes King, I personally would bet on Haynes King, but I would not be able to venture to guess exactly when Jimbo's going to announce it. But it could be as early as this Saturday, but I'd be more inclined to think it'll be closer to game week.
What do you think is the separation between the two of them if he does go with Haynes King?
Just the overall athleticism. We were in this position about 3 years ago when you had the big, strong-armed Nick Starkel and the more mobile Kellen Mond, and I think you're in the same position. You got the more mobile Haynes King, who's even faster than Kellen. In fact, I think he may be the second fastest player on the team. Now I'll say this: Zach Calzada is more athletic and nimble than Nick Starkel was. So with him, you have a guy with a big arm that can also get you some yards. But Haynes is the kind of guy that if nobody's open, he decides to tuck it. He might go 50 yards.
So, Olin, outside of the quarterback race, I mean, this is a team that seems pretty loaded for bear, and the preseason rankings, show that as well. A lot of the offseason talk shows that. Is this the team that's ready to go all the way? Is this a team that's going to be in the thick of contention, you think, from start to finish?
Well, I think it's a team that definitely has more than just a little bit of a potential to be in the playoff discussion at the end of the year. Now, until they show they can beat Alabama, I think you have to assume, Alabama's going to be the pick, and rightly so. But I do believe that this year that the talent gap between A&M and Alabama is narrower than it has maybe ever been, including the 2012 team when A&M won. So I think the schedule sets up pretty well. You do get Alabama at home. Not that bothers them. They're used to playing in the biggest and most hostile environments, but it's still, you take any edge you can get. And I do think that A&M has a team that can go into that game expecting to win instead of just, hoping everything will go right and they'll win.
All right, so the expectations we know are insane, right? They're where they should be because of who they were. Jimbo Fisher has lineage and heritage and all the other things you want to say, producing the national championship, also on the LSU staff. How much confidence, because it's him as head coach, in what A&M can do, not only this year, what they've done last year, but what they can do going forward?
Yeah, I think that's where it all starts with Fisher. I mean, last year they were not ready to open the season against Vanderbilt, and then they lose significantly, like everybody did, just about at Alabama, and then they come back and beat Florida, but they lose their number one deep threat at receiver. So they had to start moving things around, and you have a coach that says, "Hey, the best way for this team to win is to control the ball and wear teams down and win the fourth quarter," because they didn't have the deep threat anymore. And so that's what they were able to do. I think this is a guy that can take the talent that's available to him and find the best way to use it. And this year, I do think they're going to have more big play ability, so they're not going to have to rely on the running game as heavily as they did last year, but it's good to know you have it if you need it.
How much confidence do they have, with this, Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC? If this happens pre-Jimbo Fisher, I'm sure more A&M fans would go into panic mode and a meltdown. But because they do have Jimbo Fisher and that they are ahead of Texas right now when it comes to the development and the place their program is.
Yeah, I think A&M's at a place, and I don't mean to be flippant about this. I really don't. But I think they're at a place where their focus, and I'm sure you can understand this, is on Alabama and LSU. Now, obviously, when Texas and Oklahoma enter the conference, those are two programs that have done a lot in the past, and one of them in the present. But when you're playing in the division that has the defending national champion and the champion before that, I think that's where 100% of your attention goes until it has to change. But I think also, and again, this isn't meant to be flippant, but when you've been playing LSU and Auburn and Alabama and sometimes Georgia on a yearly basis, I don't know that you fear Texas or Oklahoma. You certainly respect them, but I think you just look at it as, hey, here's two more opponents that's going to come into this grind.
So, Olin, you've been around college football a long time. You've covered realignments before. What were your thoughts when that report first came out and just all of the craziness that we've been experiencing since that dropped last month?
My original thought was, oh, crap, I got to delete this column and start on another one. Because I was about halfway through one column at SEC Media Days. I'm saying, hey, Zerneman, can't you give me a heads up? You don't have to tell me what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was surprised because we knew about the, quote, gentleman's agreement between Mike Slide, the former SEC commissioner, and Bowen Lofton, the former A&M president, that A&M would be the only SEC team in Texas. But, of course, Mike Slide passed away a few years ago, and Greg Sankey opted not to honor that. And, you can also understand it with all the money at stake. But, in the past, there's been this agreement between Kentucky and South Carolina and Florida that they would always vote against another team coming in from their state coming in. But I guess in this case, first of all, A&M being the new guy, didn't command as much respect from the old guard. and quite frankly, there's just too much money on the table for everybody to turn, to just decide, no, we're going to take care of A&M here. And plus, you also got to remember, it's not the coaches and athletic directors that are making that call. It's the presidents and chancellors.
Yeah, and no matter what, and we've said this from the beginning, something the Big 12 never had was, even with A&M having a little bit of an argument there, or even someone else, they were unanimous. They figured it out. They get along. Whatever's best for the conference, it's best for all of them. And that was an amazing switch in about a week or two. Olin, good luck. We'll have you again, as always. Appreciate your time on A&M. Thanks for your time. Olin Buchanan from TexAgs.com with us on Sick 'Em 365 Radio. When we come back, a couple of notes, including we will also then visit Notre Dame. Pete Sampson, There is a 202 area code who has been on the text line with me back and forth for quite some time on Notre Dame coverage. We had just a couple of weeks ago a Notre Dame writer, and Pete Sampson will join us from theathletic.com as well. Then Oklahoma at 4:30, and this is Sikkim 365 Radio. The Woodway Family Center. I had an email today from their administration. Right now, hosting clinics at the park this fall. 4 weeks, 2 days a week. Woodway residents get a discount. And here are, and the coaches, of course, the staff is fantastic. Flag football at White Hall Park, 5 to 10-year-olds. Sand volleyball at Pogue Park from 8 to 11-year-olds. And more sports coming. You can go to discoverwoodway.com for that information. Again, flag football and sand volleyball available for Woodway residents, and go to discoverwoodway.com. Clinics at the parks. The 2021 Woodway Wine and Food Fest, August 28th. Tickets are almost sold out. Music, wine tastings, delicious food, samples, and more. And again, go to discoverwoodway.com. Also, you can learn more about the upcoming events, things to do on the weekend. The hotel, 7 of them available. Download the Discover Woodway app in the App Store and Google Play. Promote the 7 hotels. We do that all the time. They have 7 for you to stay at, including breathtaking beauty, close proximity to premier shopping, and numerous restaurant options, and easy access to Lake Waco, just 7 miles from Baylor University and the Magnolia Silos. It's Woodway Family Center. It's Discover Woodway. Hike, shop, and stay in Woodway.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed. Smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Hi, Mark Stewart here with Bird Colgan Ford. Score big with Midway Football and Ford Trucks. It's time to catch football fever and find the perfect Ford truck for your next tailgating party. The Ford F-150 has been America's #1 selling truck for 44 years, and Bird Colgan Ford has the perfect truck for you to drive to your next football game. Enjoy the game. Enjoy the ride. Enjoy the many truck choices at Bird Colgan Ford. Visit us anytime at bkford.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Notre Group Insurance Agency. With the Notre Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Notre Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Notre Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors at Baylor Trust, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Engel with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Yep, bouncing outside, it is Kyron Williams. He will go the distance. Notre Dame touchdown, Kyron Williams.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, this 4 o'clock hour includes Pete Sampson, theathletic.com on Notre Dame. He'll join us here momentarily. If you're a premium section member of Sikkim365.com, you have maybe already read the article, Stop the Slander. AAC TV viewership doesn't equal the Big 12 remains. And Sam Bradshaw, S11 on the site, he is a guy that breaks down film for us as well and will, went after a story went into a story with Stuart Mandel, theathletic.com, a national writer, and just shredded it because of information that was put out. And then Sam Bradshaw took it, dissected it, almost like a needle in a haystack, and broke it down on the value of the 8 remains of the Big 12 compared to the AAC. It was not in any way negative to the AAC. It was looking at statistics, analytics, etc., and it is in the premium section. If you are a member, you've read it. Maybe if you haven't, you should. If you're not a premium member, there's a reason why that you should be. We'll have Pete Sampson here momentarily. 254-339-1122.
Kristen in Missouri, you're on the Bet US caller line. Thanks for your call.
Good afternoon, guys. Hey, I had an observation I wanted to make about the idea of the Big 12 being better suited to be patient versus be aggressive. The Big East is a perfect case example of why I think Bob Bowlesby needs to have aggressive leadership here. When Miami, Virginia Tech, and Boston College all fled to the ACC, the Big East was pretty much left for dead. They said there's no way a BCS conference can survive with West Virginia, Pitt, and Syracuse. And Mike Tranghese, the commissioner at the time, was told you can't expand because there's no one good to add. But he had the vision to see that you had Louisville out there, you had Cincinnati out there, you had South Florida and Central Florida. There were enough good teams that if they had opportunity could really grow. And as a matter of fact, I mean, Cincinnati's been a great program ever since. You have South Florida, who was in the top 10 at one point. West Virginia ended up being the star of the Big East once Miami left. I think the Big 12 is as good or a better position than the Big East was at the time. And I'm not a big supporter of adding teams just to add them. But I think adding 2 teams proactively, like Cincinnati, because they're a top 25 team, and maybe one other team like BYU would be good for the Big 12. Iowa State is definitely a team that can challenge, and there's no reason they, like Miami, can't feast off the conference and become a strong bowl team every single year. Nothing against Bob Bowlesby, because I know he's taking hits from every direction. I think if he wants to have leadership and have people trust him, he should add those 2 teams, and there's no reason you can't add a Colorado or an Arizona State later down the road, because there's plenty of spots still open. Just my observation, and I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that, in listening to Mack Rhodes yesterday, the one thing the Big 12 cannot afford to do is sit on their hands. If they're going to sit back and just wait to see how it all plays out, then they're all going to be left out in the dust. And that's a difficult thing because, on the one hand, you're talking to these other 7 ADs and presidents and saying, hey, we're going to stick together. But Mac even said himself, and I'm sure all the other ADs are saying the same thing, but ultimately I have to do what's best for the school that I work for, right? So It's a very loose alliance, but if they are truly intending on sticking it out together, then I think you're absolutely right. I think they need to be proactive. I think that BYU makes tons of sense. I think Cincinnati makes sense. UCF makes sense. The schools that have been mentioned, Cincinnati makes sense. Like, all four of those schools make sense, but I'd love to see the Big 12 go and pluck a couple of those, or all four of the ones that I just mentioned. I do think it would be a positive move forward. Now, again, I don't know what the financial aspect of that would be, and that's what is ultimately going to come into play. If you are Baylor or TCU or Iowa State, you're obviously not going to make the $30+ million that you were making with Texas and Oklahoma. But if are you now making 10? If you add Cincinnati and BYU and two other schools, are you now making 7? Right? Or are you making 12 or 14? So, like, which one makes more sense financially? Because, again, that's what it all comes down to. But I am totally with you if the financials make sense on them being proactive. They cannot afford to sit on their hands here and just expect the AAC schools to come knocking on their door saying, pretty please, will you let us in? They've already done that. They're not going to do that again, and they don't have to do that right now. Now, I'm sure there's some smooching going on, and like, yeah, sure, would be interested in that behind the scenes, but yeah, they absolutely have to be proactive, and I think if in doing so, if they do correctly like you're indicating, then they could make a little bit of a way for themselves. You know, they're not going to, suddenly get 30 million TV households by adding any of these teams, but they can add a little bit of stability. They can expand their geography and maybe become more enticing for one of the TV networks when the contracts start getting negotiated here in the next few years. So I'm with you. It's all about being proactive and not sitting on your hands.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's almost, I've looked at this, and so I'd say about 50 or 60% of those of you, our listeners, viewers, or those that say, man, they got to be more proactive. And yet again, they have to be patient while being proactive. I know that contradicts it, because if they're going to go out and try to sue the ESPNs or whoever for them playing something behind their back, they have to be careful with what they're doing as well, even if they have a right to go look or talk. So they have to. It's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it such a unique situation. Is you're absolutely right. You're kind of screwed either way. Do you sit with these 8 teams and just trust that, and then know that 2 of them could bolt overnight, and then you're totally screwed?
Yep.
Do you get too proactive, and then you're adding teams, and all of a sudden you're actually making less money, even though there's more teams in your conference? Right? That's also a possibility. So again, it goes back to the value and what that would mean for the TV contracts. So if there's teams that are appealing, add them. If there's not, then you kind of have to be patient. But, yeah, it's a weird situation that they find themselves in.
At Pete Sampson _ on Twitter, has a huge following, beat writer to cover Notre Dame, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Pete, thanks for your time. Paul, Catalina, Craig, and David Smoak, and we appreciate your time on Notre Dame. So we just we took a call about the realignment. You know what all that meant. And what that's meant to college football in the last 3 weeks or so. Has that really even registered with Notre Dame much because of the situation where they are and what they have themselves?
A little bit, but I think it was registered in the sense of like, all right, what's 2 moves down the road? What's 3 moves down the road? What does a Pac-12, Big Ten, ACC alliance look like? How does that impact scheduling 5 years down the road? So I wouldn't say it's registered in the way that I hear you guys talking about how it's registered in the Big 12 is totally different. That's all hands on deck. What do you got to do right now? I think for Notre Dame, they have the luxury to be able to sort of sit back, figure out, okay, what's our next move? Do we even need to have a next move, or does the status quo work for us?
Would they change anything unless the rules were such that it forced them to?
The only reason I would see Notre Dame changing, like when by change you mean like join a conference in full, is like either they don't have a television partner for their home games, which is an attractive property. You have a hard time seeing that. They don't have a place for their Olympic sports, men's, women's basketball, so on and so forth. The ACC is their home there, where they get booted out of that, but they could just, in theory, probably go to the Big East with that. Or are they excluded from the college football playoff? And considering Jack Swarbrick is in that, their Notre Dame's athletic director is one of the 4 people planning the 12-team expansion, that's not likely either. So unless any of those 3 things change, it's not going to be an issue of, do you have an easier path to the playoff? That's not going to make Notre Dame join a conference. It's whether you were excluded entirely, and it it doesn't seem like that's where college football is going with less access to the playoffs. Everything we're talking about more.
Pete, there has been, and I think at times maybe fair to say, there's been some tradition-rich blue blood teams that have up and down times, and at times it doesn't appear as if they're as good as perhaps expected, and or everyone has their down times. We've seen it now with Texas, Nebraska, even Southern Cal, among others. Notre Dame's had a little bit of that, but they have been in now, 2 of the last 3 playoffs. They have a lot back. They have played people straight up. Why do I get the sense that they are still not quite a team that some in the national perspective have trust in right now?
So they got their doors blown off by Clemson in the ACC championship game in the playoff, and then they got outclassed by Alabama in the playoff, which most teams would, right? Like that's not they're not like in some exclusive club of teams that have not fared well. And I think that winning against Clemson at home in November helped a little bit, but I think a change of perception with Notre Dame would be they could go 10-2 this year, and people would sort of view that as like ho hum, kind of a step back. Having covered Notre Dame for a long time, there are a lot of times where 10-2 was celebrated as like what a comeback season, wake up the echoes, all that stuff. Brian Kelly has got this program in sort of such a consistent shape where I think going 10-2 this season would be sort of viewed as like just meeting expectations, not exceeding them, maybe dropping below them a little bit, but that's sort of where Notre Dame is. They've won 10 games 4 straight years, and I think to do it a 5th straight time, while would be impressive, I think it's a compliment to Brian Kelly that it wouldn't necessarily be celebrated as an amazing year.
How confident are you that Jack Cohn can take that offense to the next level?
Not that confident, because it's like, what does the next level look like? To me, the next level for Notre Dame is like they need to have receiver play comparable to what you see at high-end Big 12 teams, high-end SEC teams. Does Notre Dame have that? I'm not so sure. They have a lot of sort of unproven, experienced players back who are high-end recruits. But if you can get, there are guys like Kevin Austin, Braden Lenz, there are a couple of receivers who haven't done much in their careers that the staff expects big things. If those guys click, then Jack Cohn is going to look really good, and the offense is going to look different because Notre Dame will have sort of a deep threat option. But Jack Cohn's not going to be able to do that by himself. He needs the receivers to help him out.
How much has it helped that and Brian Kelly obviously has a nice resume, but that they have remained no one jumped off the cliff because of a big loss or not beating somebody elite or not enough of those games because of the history of Notre Dame, that they've remained with him and through some, at times, dark times, and that they stick with him?
It's impressive, right? Because how often do we see in college football a coach goes on the hot seat and they never get off until they get fired? Brian Kelly went on that hot seat in 2016 when they went 4-8. It was a total disaster. And he's coached himself right off of it, which you just do not see. You don't see coaches reinvent themselves. I give Notre Dame some credit for sticking with him, obviously, but most of that goes to Kelly himself for making good coordinator hires multiple times now and sort of reimagining himself as a head coach. So yeah, I think Notre Dame, certainly they've been proven right with sticking with him at a time when I'm not sure every athletic director would have.
Pete, what are your thoughts on the potential of an expanded playoff and the effect that would or would not have with Notre Dame?
I think for Notre Dame, it sort of strengthens their independent hand. If you go to 12 teams, anytime Notre Dame wins 10 games, they're in. So I think that's a good situation for Notre Dame. It doesn't sort of get to this scenario where it's a conference-only champions playoff. That's sort of the nightmare for Notre Dame. As somebody who likes college football, I think it just sort of takes games, your New Year's Six bowl games that I enjoy as a college football fan, but it just increases the stakes of those. Expanding the playoff is not going to change who's going to win the playoff, but it could create some more meaningful games to watch in the postseason.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this might be a dumb question, but between name, image, likeness, and expanded playoff, these potential super conferences, there's a lot of people clamoring, as we talked to you about at the beginning, clamoring of like, what's Notre Dame going to do? Or, are they going to go here? Are they going to go there? But doesn't it seem like the direction that everything's going it just further cements the position that they're already in, or am I missing something?
No, I think that Notre Dame sits back and watches what happened with the Big 12 and thinks, man, it's good to be independent, like where you don't have to be sort of beholden to other programs making decisions like that. I think let's be honest, I think if Texas could be independent, it would. Mm-hmm. If you're a brand that it has like a national draw, independence, if you can find a place for your Olympic sports and get your games on TV, it's great. You have such freedom in scheduling to sort of brand yourself the way that you want to. I mean, Notre Dame last season, before things went crazy with COVID, they were going to open in Ireland, play at Lambeau Field, and close the season in the LA Coliseum. Like, if you're in a conference, you can't do that kind of stuff. So I think just the craziness with conference realignment, seeing, you never know who's telling the truth among these ADs and among these conference commissioners. Notre Dame really has to worry about that a lot less than everybody else, because they just have to look after themselves, and that's probably more appealing now than maybe it's ever been.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be one of my questions, because they have also the rivalry games. They have certain teams like USC. They do have on the everything's basically almost all but a non-conference schedule. Teams that they want to play one day in Chicago, and the next game, as you mentioned, might be in New York City. They can do that. Is that as much of value to them and who they can schedule as much as anything else with the freedom?
It is. And I think it's so valuable that Notre Dame is willing to take less on its media rights deals to do it. Like, if they joined the ACC in full, they would make more money off media rights than they do right now. But they prefer to sort of pay a luxury tax almost to have that kind of freedom. And you look at Notre Dame's schedules coming up down the road. Next year is the beginning of a home and home with Ohio State. You got Texas A&M coming on as a home and home after that. You got Alabama coming on after that. You had Georgia a few years back, Texas a few years back, Oklahoma a few years back. Like, they really sort of get to pick their spots, and that sort of freedom, because like everyone wants Notre Dame to come to their stadium and sell it out. You get good ratings and you make money, right? But I think from Notre Dame's point of view, like, they get to sort of pick the brands that they play and the programs they play. And now, with the Soldier Field, Lambeau Field, you even sort of get to pick the venues that you play in. So that freedom and that flexibility to be a national school, like Notre Dame sort of sees itself as the national program. And if you can play coast to coast, you can sort of back up that argument a lot more than if you're just playing an ACC schedule or you're just playing a Big Ten schedule.
Outside of Toledo, they don't really have what you'd call, a gimme game. I know Florida State's been down, and I know Purdue's probably not much to write home about. But this one's tough. Does this scare Notre Dame fans that it just might be too much in the schedule for them to be back in the playoff?
Yeah, I think the schedule looks difficult because Notre Dame is not as strong where they're traditionally strong. Like, they don't have a 3-year starting quarterback returning. They don't have 5 starters back on the offensive line. They don't have seniors starting at every defensive line position. I started, if last year's Notre Dame team played this year's schedule, I think Notre Dame fans would feel very confident. This is a playoff run type of schedule. This Notre Dame team just has so many questions about it that Cincinnati, North Carolina, Wisconsin, USC, all are games you could lose. At Florida State, to me, is very tricky. Night game on the road to start with maybe a true freshman at left tackle and a grad transfer quarterback. I think that the schedule looks difficult more so. It's more a commentary on what Notre Dame's roster looks like than it is on the schedule itself.
Yeah, I got to tell you, there are times sometimes a schedule can look like even 2, 3, 5 years earlier, like it might be rough, but this will be fun. I mean, if they can handle their business, my goodness, who they have, I don't know, Florida State, yeah, Paul's an FSU grad, but that's still a game on the road. Wisconsin, how many teams would play this schedule and run it? How many could run it? Yeah.
I mean, you can probably think of 3, right? Yeah. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State would do it. Maybe Georgia would do it. But they've got 4 top 15 teams on the schedule. I guess if you're looking at it from a positive perspective from Notre Dame, of those 4 games, 3 of them are at home and one's at a neutral site. So you're not going to Camp Randall in Madison. You're not going to a hostile environment. And Notre Dame has won, I believe, 24 straight home games, the second longest home winning streak in school history. And their winning streak against not unranked competition is the second longest in college, or the third longest in college football, behind Alabama and Clemson. So if they win their home games and they beat every unranked team they play, they're locked to go 11-1, because Wisconsin's the only ranked team they'll play on the road. So it's, but you know, Notre Dame they don't have the experience. They're not as battle tested as they were last year, where if they played a C+ performance, they would figure out how to pull out a win. This team, I feel like if they show up flat, they will get beat. And that's, last year they just sort of figured it out on the fly. If they weren't playing well, you knew they'd figure out a way to win the game. This year, I'm just not so sure, because they have so many new parts.
Paul mentioned the quarterback situation. Who are they strong? What are they stronger at? Meat and potatoes, the linemen, linebackers on either side of the ball. Obviously, I'm talking about the linemen, or the steak and the glitz and the lobster and the skill people.
It's a little bit more of a lobster team then, I guess, if you want to put it in those terms. There's and I think when Notre Dame is really good, they're meat and potatoes. Their offensive line is great and their defensive line is good, and they have a good ground game. Like, the running backs are very good, but they're probably going to be starting a true freshman at left tackle in the opener. Notre Dame has not started a freshman offensive lineman in an opener since 2006. They've got one returning starter and a new quarterback. So that's not the Notre Dame formula, but I think the receivers will be better. Their tight end is great. I mean, first round pick in 2 years, great, and Michael Mayer. And they have an All-American safety in Kyle Hamilton, who is just phenomenal. Their linebackers are very good. Their defensive ends are just okay, though. So I don't think it's a team that's going to get a whole lot of pressure without blitzing. So it's I think that's the intrigue of Notre Dame for me this year. It's just like they're built a lot differently than the very good Notre Dame teams Brian Kelly has had here, and I'm so interested to sort of see how this staff puts these puzzle pieces back together.
All right, Pete, thank you. Appreciate your time. At Pete Sampson _ on Twitter. 50,000 different followers on his Twitter account, athletic.com.
Yeah, he does a good job, and that is a fun schedule. I mean, and I'm glad we could kind of hammer home the thing on Notre Dame and independence. You know, the one thought is that you could sort of foresee is, and I was going to bring this up earlier, but what are your guys' thoughts on if everybody breaks away and forms their own March Madness? What if all the powers break away? Mm-hmm. They'll have 64 teams. They might be exactly 64 teams, and they broke away and formed their own March Madness tournament. I mean, there's nothing preventing them from doing that, really. Yeah. So if you did that, then Notre Dame might have to join a conference. Mm-hmm. Like, that would potentially force them into doing so. But outside of that, outside of like automatic playoff berths and things like that, they have absolutely zero reason to join any conference right now. I mean, zero reason. They are in the like, other teams are grabbing onto lifeboats. Notre Dame's just sailing by in a yacht as an independent. You know, you dream of being an independent if you could be. And he's right about that point on Texas. Like, I think that they've definitely thought in the past about what independence would look like and whether they could pull it off. And there's very few who could do that. But, you know, barring, you know, like that basketball tournament scenario or something that absolutely puts a gun to their head and says, like, you have to join something, they have no reason to. None. And especially, like, then I love this schedule. I mean, I think this is the kind of schedule that people are hoping what the future of college football is probably going to look like.
Glad you brought that up.
Yeah, is everybody playing a named team every single week for the most part? I mean, outside of Toledo, there's a named team every single week on their schedule for the most part. You know, Purdue's a named, not, you know, in the winning ways, but still Big Ten Purdue.
And it's a you know, forever rival.
Right, and Rondale Moore was, you know, he's not there anymore, but he was somebody that got, you know, all it takes is a player or two to make you a good team. So, I mean, I love this schedule. Just, I mean, it's not necessarily going to work out in their favor. You know, it probably will for the most part, but it's awesome to look at.
Yeah, and Purdue, not Purdue, but Toledo only played 6 games last year, so you don't know much about, you know, who they are coming off that year. There are times they've been dangerous, you know.
Well, the Toledo game,
but that's
Brigham Young 2 years ago.
But that's the worst team on their schedule.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Even then, if you get on the wrong side of this schedule, now I'm going to throw these names out there: Florida State, and I know, Paul, that one day maybe they'll get back on their couch again and be competitive at a higher level. Wisconsin, who's always going to, again, there's things that Wisconsin battles against, but they're solid. We know what Cincinnati is now. Virginia Tech, it's a big boy program, at times up and down. Southern Cal, North Carolina now with Mac Brown.
Which, when that was scheduled, there's no way they could have thought. I don't know when that was scheduled. Maybe if it was recent, then maybe they had that in mind. But I doubt that when they scheduled that, they were like, Mac Brown's going to have them as a top 10 team in the country.
And that might have been 3, 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. Then they have Navy, Virginia, Georgia Tech. So they have a chance there. But one of those teams, we know what Navy used to be, and maybe still a team that if you just don't
That's still a team you got to plan for that week, though. Like, it's not like one you just, like, you don't watch the film. Like, you have to, like, prepare for Navy no matter what they are.
And they end at Stanford, and Stanford is to the West Coast what Wisconsin is to the Midwest, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lunch pail team.
All right, I'll tell you what the most important game on the schedule is for the rest of the country for Notre Dame is Notre Dame versus Toledo, and here's why. It's a game that's only on Peacock that you're going to have to subscribe and download the app to get. So that's going to be a big thing for people going forward, going, okay, will people do this on other apps that aren't named ESPN? Will they do it on Peacock? Will they do it on Paramount Plus? Will they go, will they get Amazon Prime, which, half the world has anyway? Will they get that so that they can watch these certain things?
So I think probably, subscriptions kind of roll off and on, but I've got, I think, Netflix and Prime and probably a couple of others. And even though, I'm not trying to bring this back to wrestling, but Peacock did acquire the WWE Network and folded it in. And I was having a conversation with a guy about it yesterday. I used to be a subscriber. I just don't like the product that much anymore, so I no longer am. And there's nothing that Peacock's doing, Olympics, WWE Network, that's enticing me. So Notre Dame football is not going to entice me either just to watch one game. So that's me as a non-Notre Dame fan, but a huge college football fan. It's still not going to be enough for me to sign up. Now, if it was already on Prime and I already have that, like probably the majority of people, absolutely I'll flip that on and have no problem watching it. But yeah, this is a little test of the streaming waters and seeing how popular and how much demand there really is for this.
And it's a micro test because, again, people who Notre Dame and Toledo, if you're not a Notre Dame fan, you're probably not going to Peacock to get that game.
No.
But how many Notre Dame fans can they get?
Right.
And then how do you use that math of like, oh, hey, we got this many subscriptions. Like, there's a new Saved by the Bell,
right,
Punky Brewster, and whatever else they do on Peacock. But, The Office, and that's the only place you can watch The Office and Parks and Rec. So those are their other hooks that they have in you. So maybe you get on for that.
When we come back, we've hit A&M, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma. Earlier, Jerry Hill on Baylor in the quarterback competition, among a few other things with Baylor.
I do have to mention a note. You were bringing up single digits earlier, and Colt tweeted out that Dylan Doyle is wearing a number 5 at practice today, the linebacker. So that was one of the two, or was there 2 or 3 numbers that were open?
I think there was a couple of numbers,
yeah. Whatever. I guess that one's potentially been filled. Maybe we'll hear after practice. But, Dylan Doyle's wearing number 5 today.
All right, here we go. Coming up next, John Hoover, SI Sooners. He's covered a lot of Oklahoma State football, was with the Tulsa World, talk show on the radio, and much more. We'll hit Oklahoma with John Hoover and more. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. It is Make This the Summer event going on right now with their 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star. Total value is up to $6,250, 2.9% for 72 months, and plus $2,000 bonus cash. That's why Ram truck owners are the most loyal to the brand and back-to-back Motor Trend Truck of the Year. And then there's the Make This the Summer event for the 2021, the new Grand Cherokee Laredo. Total values of $3,500 or 0% for 48 months plus a $2,000 bonus cash. Come in, check out the most prestigious Jeep, the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L, beautifully rugged third-row seat with incredible Jeep arriving daily. You're going to fall in love with the Grand Cherokee L. See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Also want to tell you about what Ted Teague does for the dealership. And shout out to AJ, who's coming back. Great to have AJ closer and closer to being back at what he does well, which is sell cars at Alan Samuels. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
At Impact Research Institute, we can help you identify if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and measure for liver stiffness or scarring. If you or a loved one has diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, obesity, or concerns about your liver health, Impact Research Institute may be able to help by providing liver health screenings quickly at no cost, physician counseling, and opportunities to qualify for clinical trials. Visit us at impactresearchtx.com for more.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Rattler, bootleg action. Now in trouble again. Defensive call. Yeah, but there he is. Through the corner, touchdown. Theo Weiss. That's Rattler doing Rattler-like things.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Live Guest VIP Hotline is sponsored by Stonewood Dental. We are all in this together.
All right, here we go. John Hoover, John E. Hoover on Twitter, follows the state of Oklahoma, has done a great job with the time as a writer, a blogger, a radio talk show host, and now publisher of SI Sooners, also writes for that Lindy's magazine. He joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. John, it's been a while, but the story that popped 3 weeks ago, I think, was it 3 weeks ago today or 3 or 4 weeks ago today, and now things have kind of calmed down, settled down. It's just a matter of now when, not if, because we know Texas and Oklahoma are leaving. Was there any at all reaction from Oklahoma fans of, I'm not so sure we like this at all?
Yeah, absolutely, Smokey. I would say probably I would characterize it as probably 80 to 85%.
Wow.
are pumping their fist right now and saying, "Oh my God, this is great! We're joining the SEC."
Okay.
Because when you're at Oklahoma, you've got 7 national championships to your name, in your heritage, but you haven't won one in 21 years. That's the longest stretch since Bud Wilkinson won the first one in 1950. So they are starving for a national title. So most of the people around here are saying this is our best chance to get to to get number 8, to get that next national championship, is to join the SEC, have a good season every once in a while, and have a shot. Versus the 15% that are saying, we're not going to win 6 consecutive SEC championships like we've been winning 6 consecutive Big 12 championships, right? So it's which one of these paths do you want to go down if you're an Oklahoma fan? I guarantee you they're not going to win 6 straight SECs, but I do think it's the fastest way to another national title.
John, do you think there's any momentum to keep Oklahoma State on the schedule at all?
Well, Oklahoma has said all the right things. When asked numerous times about it, they are eager to, continue the series, and the Bedlam series is very meaningful, and they welcome the competition. And Oklahoma State is saying, well, if they're leaving, then screw them. The president almost came out and said those very words. It's been shocking. Behind closed doors, in the dark, smoke-filled rooms at Oklahoma in Norman, I'm not 100% sure that they're all on board. Everybody's got all their chips in the center of the table to play Oklahoma State, to continue to play that big non-conference game when you're suddenly in the future you're going to be taking on 9 probably SEC conference games. Do you want your 10th game to be Oklahoma State every year? That thing. Listen, Oklahoma dominates statistically the Bedlam series, but it's the rare occasion when it's maybe not rare. It's a little bit on the unusual side when Oklahoma dominates the game. Those games always come down to the final drive, the final quarter, the final who can make the final stop. I don't know that Oklahoma really wants to get into that in their non-conference. Maybe they do, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma's going to be just fine. But yeah, ripping off 6 or 7 consecutive conference titles. Hell, not even Alabama does that. And we know where they are. Spencer Rattler, the guy has the swagger. He's got the gun. He's got the moxie. He's got everything. Now he's got a year of experience. There are other really good quarterbacks in college football. But your thoughts about how much better does Lincoln Riley think he can get?
Yeah, this is a big year for him, and it's been a big offseason. He went into last year, 2020, not having officially won the starting job. He was competing for the starting job, and then COVID happened. He didn't get spring practice. He didn't get a standard offseason. Nothing was typical about last year, including the start for an Oklahoma quarterback when he throws, 5 interceptions in the first 2 games, or the first 2 losses, I guess. Had something like 7 turnovers, had game-ending interceptions on each of the last 2 drives that they lost those games against Iowa State, K-State. That's not an Oklahoma quarterback. Well, his season was really, kind of teetering there in the Texas game when he got benched after 2 more turnovers. You're like, Lincoln Riley's probably crawling inside his skin saying, Spencer, stop turning the football over. Well, he pulled him out, sat him down, and I think Spencer realized at some point, okay, I need to quit being loose with the football. I think he finished the season, his last 7 games, with just 2 turnovers. And he figured things out. So now he's had a typical off season. He's had a full spring. He's had the summer and working with the receivers every day, and everything's structured. I expect a really big season from him. I think Lincoln Riley expects an even bigger season from him because he's worked on this is Lincoln Riley talking, okay? I'm kind of paraphrasing his quotes here from the press conferences. He's worked on his body. He's gotten stronger. He's gotten faster. He's more elusive. He's not going to be a runner, but we did a series with Jim Mora, the former UCLA coach, this off season about the draft. And we asked him about Spencer Rattler. And one of the things that he said is people are going to turn off their radio or drive off the road or whatever. But one of the things he said in evaluating Spencer Rattler's film is he has some qualities that remind you of Patrick Mahomes in that he can make that no-look pass. He can throw off schedule. He can be falling down and make a pass that's a perfect spiral like he did like Mahomes did in the Super Bowl. He's got arm talent that's really, really rare, and now he's developed the ability to make throws that are not part of the regular plan. So put all those things together, regular off season, rededicated himself to the weight room, got more elusive, has developed tricks to go along with that arm talent. I think he could be having a big year.
So, John, last year the running back room got kind of decimated with transfers, and then Kennedy Brooks decides to sit out. But they grab Eric Gray through the transfer portal, and I was surprised to see that Kennedy Brooks actually, did just sit out last year, and he's coming back. It wasn't like an NFL thing or anything like that. How much excitement, I guess, is there for that running back room right now?
Yeah, it's still a little bit thin. They had a guy who was a freshman last year, was arrested and kicked off the team for an alleged armed robbery. So you got another guy who was the backup starter somewhat last year, TJ Pledger. He transferred to Utah. So yeah, you're decimated, but you pick up two guys from the transfer portal. Eric Gray is a superstar waiting to happen. Two-time Tennessee Gatorade Player of the Year. His yards per carry and touchdown totals and single season yardage totals his 3 years as a starter in high school are otherworldly. And if you watch him, we got to watch practice yesterday, the rare occasion here in Norman. He is a legit, what's the best, dual threat maybe is the best way to say it. We made the prediction that he's going to be probably third on the team in catches, maybe fourth, and will lead the team in total yards from scrimmage because he's just electrifying in the passing game. He's so natural as a receiver. So if he stays healthy, we expect big numbers. And then they added from LSU. Now, he came from Tennessee, Eric Gray did, but then they added LSU transfer, Kevontre Bradford.
Oh, that's right.
Bradford is what he goes by. Yeah, from I guess, close to you guys. He's in the Dallas suburbs. But he is the guy that, you talk to Lincoln Riley and you talk to Kennedy Brooks about him, you talk to Eric Gray. They talk about his explosiveness is something that they haven't had. Top end speed, get out of the gates, get going. It's something that Oklahoma, Lincoln Riley says, I haven't had that here yet. So you wonder, again, we don't get to see a lot of practice. We certainly don't get to see the scrimmages. We'll know, I guess, come September. But you wonder how fast this guy really is. Can he make people miss? Is he strong enough to break tackles? Because if he is, he only played a couple of games last year at LSU. And they were, at the end of the season when they had a bunch of injuries as a true freshman. So you're wondering, well, why didn't he play more if he's that good? But just to hear these guys talk, again, we're taking these at secondhand accounts. He sounds like he could be in for a big year too, as kind of a third option behind Brooks and Eric Gray.
What's crazy about Kennedy Brooks, and we saw him at Mansfield High School a couple times, maybe 3 times, I think, in his career, and he was fantastic, is I thought last year had he stayed with who they were, he could have been someone mentioned in the Heisman Trophy race. And the fact he opted out, and yet they still won the Big 12 because of others who stepped up. And that's without Trey Sermon, which is, if you think about it, because of the year he had as well, is just nuts in so many ways. All right, now here's one of the things that I think Craig would understand this. Craig's a lifelong Oklahoma fan and a lot of Oklahoma fans. Sometimes when you hear that they're going to be so much better, like this is the defense, which did take it to another level last year, no question about it. But you know this enough, John, that sometimes when there's hype about a certain specific side of the ball, the offense, we know what they can do. The defense is good. And they had a horrible team a couple of years ago defensively. They couldn't tackle anybody. Is this defense now set like this year in and year out? They're going to be this good?
Oh, year in and year out. I do not know the answer to that. You got to maybe believe what they're saying about recruiting. If you look at the last couple of recruiting classes, they've brought in guys that they just didn't really have access to before. Big defensive tackles, big defensive ends. Some actually big cornerbacks. Keep in mind, guys, I live in Tulsa, so I get to watch the Golden Hurricane play fairly frequently. Tulsa, 2 deep defensive backs, 5 guys, okay, 5 positions, two deep. So if you're talking about 10 guys, their smallest guy in 2018, 2019 was like 6 foot 205.
Okay, that's Tulsa. Oklahoma has been, for the past decade or so, has been living off guys that are 5'9", 5'10", 175, 180. Are you kidding me? So the point being, Oklahoma now has defensive backs that look more like TU defensive backs here in the University of Tulsa, in that they're big, 6 foot, 6'2", 6'3" guys. They've got one that's 6'4", 205, 210, 215. One guy said it was a DB that was 220. That's what Oklahoma's defense needs to look like, and that's going to ultimately be the deciding factor how long these guys stay good. There's no doubt they're better this year than they were last year, and there's no doubt they'll be better. They're better last year than they were over the past decade. So Alex Grinch has got them moving in the right direction, 100% sure of that.
So, John, circling back to realignment, I know you don't know this answer. Nobody knows this answer right now, but technically, Oklahoma and Texas aren't expected to exit for a few more years. What are your actual expectations in that regard?
Well, I think we all saw the note that Texas and the Longhorn Network might have the opportunity to buy out the Big 12 penalty, buyout for leaving early. And if ESPN pays that thing and pays Oklahoma's way out of the Big 12 into the SEC, I just think it'll happen sooner than later. I think it'll happen. I think there's a much higher percentage chance of it happening in 2022 than in 2025. And part of the reason is, I think, was it Chuck Carlton last week that had the note that in the future Big 12 meetings, if it is 2025, that Joe Castiglione and the OU representatives will get up and leave the room. When they have proprietary, high-level secret conference meetings,
right?
OU and Texas are going to get up and leave the room. So I think I don't think anybody in the Big 12 and nobody at the schools for sure wants any part of that awkwardness. And, Bob Bowlesby said he felt betrayed by someone who was his close friend and that kind of thing. So I think the bridge is burnt. I think the branch is snapped. I don't think there's any going back. As soon as they can get out, and everybody's going to agree to it, whatever the payout is, everybody's going to say, "Yeah, that's fine. You can leave now."
Yeah, it is. It's not a very good relationship, and there's no trust at all. I don't know if there was much trust anyway. I always thought that there was kind of that. But, man, has this set college football in its ear. It's been wonderful for us on this show because I don't know about you, John, but it has set fire to what we have now as an audience that's exploded in just the last 3 weeks. Thank you, man. Yeah. Great to always have you whenever we can. And tell everyone where they can find you. I know SI Sooners, you write for Lindy's and a couple of other things as well.
Yeah, I got a YouTube channel, John Hoover Media. You can also find me at the website we just had our busiest month, Smokey, coming off that realignment stuff. So, allsooners.com is the website, allsooners.com.
Thank you. Good luck with that, John. John
Hoover,
guys. SI Sooners, and also has long time covered. He mentioned Tulsa, and he was the Tulsa World writer for a long time, radio show. Great guy. Appreciate his coverage of college football as well. All right, Paul, break here, or what do we need to do?
We gotta get two in before the top of the hour.
All right, let's do that then. 254-339-1122. The chat room's going on. It's on fire. The text line, we've tried to answer it whenever you send us a text. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street in Waco. A hidden gem, great selection of spirits, wine, craft beer like you would not believe, but they also have a great array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Bush Creek Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. And look, great customer service. If you're a bourbon aficionado like me and you want, something on the higher end, look, they've got it for you. And look, if they don't have it, believe me, they probably know where you can get it, or they know when and if they can get it for you. That's the customer service they have at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, and a drive-through window that's just lickety-split. You would not believe how fast they move. It's because everybody knows where everything is. You walk into the store, you say, I can't find the Pinhook. They're going to be like, well, it's right here behind me. Or you say, I need to find this. They're like, take 3 steps. It's right by your knee. Boom, it's right there. They know all of it, backwards and forwards. Excellent service, excellent store, excellent people. At Riverbend Liquor and Wine, find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Life is back on, sports bettors, and BetUS has your NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, UFC, PGA, and yes, NFL betting lines up for their 27th year and live betting on all of it. Log into BetUS.com or call 800-792-3887. That's 800-79-BETUS. BetUS for 125% bonuses with promo code SICK'EM125. Customer service pros are ready to get your phone, social, and online sports betting kickoff started now. Play with the proven mainstay in the industry. BetUS. You bet, you win, you get paid. BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. And you have this umbrella. We mentioned the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, but you serve more than just like home insurance, or you have all sorts of different levels of different things you cover.
Yeah.
How much does that help?
You know, I talked to a guy today. He has, Allstate on his car, Progressive boat, and, Farmers on his home. So I said, why don't you, do you know your agents? No, I just call the 800 number. Why don't you just let me quote that and we can have it all here. Makes it a lot less complicated for you. He really liked that. So we have auto, home, life, several different brokerage options, classic cars. Got to ride in a 1978 Ferrari one time.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Do it today by searching Sikkim 365 on YouTube.
All right, wrapping up this 4 o'clock hour. John Machota on the Cowboys in the next segment. We have dipped through Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, also with Baylor. The chat room has been great. As always, most everyone. This is, of course, there's a lot of realignment talk, and there's still some of the same teams and some of the same conferences and all that continues to go back and forth. Aesthetics hardstyle. Texas and Oklahoma will be good 9 and 10 win teams in the SEC.
Oh, wow. I mean, like regularly?
Well, here's the thing. Can both of them be good at the same time? That's happened for years upon years. Now, most recently, not in the last decade, because we know Texas has been through a down cycle. In the 90s, Oklahoma went through a down cycle. But at the same time, that's why Mac Brown arrived, because even Texas went through a down cycle. Both of them, can they both be elite at the same time? Both will be able to even talk more about recruiting. Will both make more money. Both will have better schedules to promote. And yet there'll be some landmines. And if Ames or Manhattan or on occasion Waco or Lubbock
If those have been landmines, then so will some of the other ones maybe that you don't think about in the SEC.
That's what is kind of funny, ultimately. And this isn't a knock on Texas or Oklahoma, really, but it is kind of funny that it's like you did struggle with those teams, and now you're going and joining some teams that are all in their own right a level above and just assuming, like, it's just going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
I just, like, I'm thinking... Yeah, probably not initially. I mean, I don't think it's going to take them forever and ever to do what they need to do to be competitive. I think Oklahoma's going to jump in and be pretty competitive right out of the gate. I just need to see what Sark and Texas look like. Forgive all this. Yeah, I know what he's done before. I know what they have and all that, but I actually need to see this team with him in charge. And depending on the type of year they have, maybe I'll assume that they can do the same thing and just waltz right into the SEC and be a winning team. Now, how long does it take to go from being a winning team to being a championship level team? That's the bigger question, and the one that everybody's curious about, because there are definitely some fans who think they're going to come in both those schools and they're going to take a couple notches down, and there's plenty of fans that believe they'll come in, just fit right in, and just not skip a beat. But I don't know, and I am so fascinated by what that's going to look like once we settle into it, and that's a regular thing, Oklahoma and Texas, and that schedule and all that, and just kind of see where we are after those first couple years, because if they're still winning 9-10 games, or even 8 to start off with, would be, I think, fine, but if it's more like 5 or 6 or something like that, that's going to be incredible to watch. Not that it's going to harm, I mean, they're going to be raking in money, so and like we've said, that's what all this is about, so they're going to stay winning no matter what. But the actual wins and losses on the field for those two teams in the SEC, I can't wait to see that.
Just like I mentioned with Notre Dame, sometimes you can have that schedule flip up on you.
Yeah.
Well,
or an injury.
And the last time we saw this was A&M, Missouri. A&M and Missouri both had early success in the SEC.
Yeah.
They've not necessarily sustained that same level of success over and over again, but I don't think unless you're Alabama, and you look around the SEC, Alabama has sustained success. Georgia is probably second in that, but Florida, who is an athletic department that pumps tons of money into their thing, they don't do much wrong. They got to improve their facilities, but they've been up and down. And you look at Auburn's been up and down. Tennessee's been down. So
LSU's been pretty steady, although they were a little bit down last year, and I don't know what to expect.
But they have LSU has some
they have little dips.
And so it's hard to do. So I don't know. I mean, it kind of depends. If you look at what happened with A&M and Missouri, they both had good quarterbacks when they went into the league.
Right.
And A&M had an offensive line that was built for the SEC without really even realizing it when they went in there, and had Johnny Manziel in that O-line and Mike Evans, and won some games. Beat Alabama one time. Good for them. But they haven't sustained it since then. It's been a little up and down. They've been good, but not great. And then,
but that's kind of what TCU did when they joined the Big 12.
Exactly, yeah.
They had that great run, and they still have had teams that have been very good. They've beaten the Oklahomas and the UTs and others, and they've really run Baylor for a while. But you might have a spike, but then you have to have consistency and build yourself depth-wise to what you are and what league you're in.
Yeah, where does it level off when you're not having a special year?
Yeah.
Does it level off at 7 or 8 wins? Because absolutely, you'd be like, shoot, hell yeah, we'll do that. That's a gimme. But does it level off and, maybe you don't go bowling for a couple of years? You know what I mean? What are the extremes? But I'd expect both to probably have just very similar journeys to all the other teams that are on par with them, the Auburns, LSUs, the Georgias. I'd expect them to be, every couple of years or every few years, or not every few years, but every couple of years they'll be mentioned as contenders, and there might be a year where they dip down a little bit, but maybe a dip down's 7 wins or 8 wins still, So, that's going to be awesome to finally see that when that time comes, either next season or 5 years from now.
Not for discussion now, but from Daniel on the text line, wondering what happens to Division 2 and 3, or what happens with the NAIA or divisions that are affected if everything trickles down, or there's another clump of teams right now among the elite, as far as I say elite, you know what I mean, by the FBS, if they're pushed down, does that push down? Does that push down? And maybe junior college, which right now, of course, has been hammered quite a bit lately as well. All right, when we come back, we'll hear from John Machota. He'll discuss the Cowboys. Much more to come. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Dr. Kent Petty and Petty Clinic, LowT.com can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be. How do you do that? Well, one, do you recognize whether there's a symptom that might be a part of low testosterone? That's what Dr. Petty can find and then also help you with. Symptoms are your energy levels just not the same. You're lethargic. Your focus is down. It's just kind of like that all the time. And then there's also your sex drive that hits you as you get older. Not everybody. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Energy, sex drive, sleep habits, and then maybe a few other things that go with that as well. Dr. Kent Petty, here's what you do. Contact him. Tell him I sent you. At pettyclinicalot.com. Get on the top left corner. There's an email or phone number. He'll get you set up with lab work. He'll get your blood work. He'll set that appointment up for you. Look at the blood results, the lab results, and if your testosterone level has dropped or is too low, he can give you the option of a program to help you increase your testosterone levels. It's as simple as that. pettyclinicalot.com.
Nothing beats fall, football, and Ford. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. The Friday night lights at Midway High School ignite that electric feeling. And Bird Colgin Ford, we have some cool electric vehicle options as well. Come put your custom order in today for the all-new Mach-E or Ford Lightning. Enjoy the electricity and the lightning speed on the football field and nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness was built to help give you a chance to enjoy an elite tennis facility, but also to remain fit and reshape your body. And ahead of the curve with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman and courts available. Like your body, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness has gone through its own physical changes. Large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available with their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Beautiful sound of members working out, running, lifting, stretching, group exercise classes throughout each day. Personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. New look bar and lounge area with beer and wine with large flat screens. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and both include shower, sauna, and whirlpool, and a world-class tennis courts facility and youth academy led by Pro Britt Cole. Fitness and tennis merchandise and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. It's time to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasoning, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic.
Just a sneak for Prescott, and he's in
touchdown.
Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
As Dalton gets it into the hands of C.D. Lamb, and he takes it in for another Cowboys touchdown, and an exclamation point here in Week 16.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments, with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 5 o'clock hour. Cowboys are kind of winding through, as everybody else is in the NFL, their preseason or exhibition schedule. And we're joined by John Machota. John, thanks for your time. There's still constantly that should Dak play? Should he be a part of the preseason? Would it be better for people to fall around him and kind of get used to people around his feet, ankles, or whatever? Do you feel like he's going to play at all in the preseason?
No, I don't. I think that this game Saturday was going to be his last hope, or their team's last hope. I don't even think he really cares at the end of the day. I think that would have been better to get him a few snaps than not, or at least a few series, but just because he missed so much time last year, but that doesn't appear to be the case. And what's interesting about that is it could lead to them just really being rusty to start the season. Now, I know that they're a veteran bunch and you know, for the most part, but still think that you need some reps together, and there's only so much you can simulate and practice. And what else is kind of interesting to me is like what should be out there week one as their starting lineup on offense. That'll be the first time that like that entire group has played together in certainly a game, but even in like a team drills thing. Because if you go back to last year, okay, rookie year, well, Lyle Collins missed the whole season. And so now you're trying to go into this season with, you know, Lyle and Tyron and Zach all back, with CD, with Dak healthy, you know, Darwin back out there for, you know, he only played one, not even a full game, he played a half. Michael Gallup back out there, Amari Cooper, like it looks great on paper. But there's going to be I think there's going to be some rust early on, and maybe to them, they're fine with it. I mean, they're not going to sit there and say this, but there's a part of me that's like, well, if you lose that first game, I mean, how many people really expect them to beat the defending Super Bowl champs in their building? If you do, great, but if not, it's not like the season's over. So let's get to week one with Dak healthy and see what happens. And so I think that's the way that they're looking at it. And that's the goal all along. And now they will go to week one with Dak healthy.
I know Lyle Collins left practice today with some sort of upper body injury. How concerned are the Cowboys with that?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's anything serious. You know, he left. He was held out of like some team drill stuff. But, I mean, he didn't immediately, like, usually when it's something significant, a guy will go right to the locker room, and that wasn't the case here. Just he spent some time talking to head athletic trainer Jim Maurer, and in a way, it kind of almost looked like some of the same, you know, exercises that he was putting Dak through with his throwing shoulder. It looked like it was an upper body, like, you know, either a shoulder or neck. He was doing a lot of different movements with his neck and things like that. But, like I said, I mean, he didn't rush immediately to the locker room like it was something that needed to be looked at right away. But clearly enough for him not to finish practicing. So it doesn't sound like it's anything too serious, but of course, you know, I mean, with anybody that's missed a significant amount of time because of injuries, you always have some concern there. So yeah, basically Ty Nsekhe jumped in at right tackle and finished out the rest of the drills there. But while I don't think it's anything serious, it is the type of thing where, you know, you have something like that, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, he's not playing in any of his preseason games left now, too. So why don't we just sit you on the sideline until week one, too? So, you know, those first few series of that Tampa Bay game could be pretty wild.
John, I know that you write a piece for The Athletic each week following the Hard Knocks episode, kind of highlighting the standout moments. But do you have a particular moment or two from the latest episode that you'd like to share?
You know, I'll tell you, this last one, I don't know, it didn't really meet my expectations. I'm not as quite as critical of it as others. So I've seen some people comment that they're putting it in the running as the most boring Hard Knocks episode ever, which is really saying that's a lot of seasons. So I'm not going to go that far. I haven't watched every season and every episode, but it's funny because I think they can always just fall back on, like, I think they just have all this backup footage where it's like, hey, if it's not that entertaining, don't worry, we got some of these Zeke clips to fall back on, we'll be good, So I like the idea of going with CD kind of back to his room while he's packing his bags to basically their last practice before they were leaving for Arizona, and then ultimately coming back here, and just him talking about how he's not really content with what he's done. He loves seeing all these videos and all of his work on social media because it is a daily thing, but it's not like that does anything for him. Like, I don't know, he just seems like real hungry, and it was cool to see some of that behind the scenes there. So that kind of stood out to me a little bit. And then just seeing some of the behind the scenes with them talking about like what Dak was doing and stuff like that. Seeing Mike McCarthy talk to Cliff Kingsbury before the game, saying basically the same stuff he's told us about Dak, that, nothing too serious there. But I mean, hey, if you're for the heartwarming, Azur Kamara stories and Isaac Alarcon and stuff like that, hey, maybe that's for you. Me personally, I'm just kind of like, let's just keep it about like the star players because it's the Dallas Cowboys. But I get everybody's different, and they want to have a little bit of something for everyone. One other thing I will point out, I'm just kind of surprised there hasn't been more Jerry Jones. There's a little bit in the first episode, not very much in the second one. I'm kind of wondering if they're saving stuff for the last couple episodes or whatnot, but I thought there would be more Jerry Jones up to this point.
John, do you think that Liev Schreiber started laughing while he was – I feel like he was laughing when they're doing the yoga thing because it was very smart writing. The yoga thing, something in between, and then Zeke talking about how he needed baby powder.
He has to. I mean, there's just – because here's the thing, like when you get that script sent to you or whoever writes it, and then I just find hardly just reads off of a thing and doesn't like really even watch or see what clip he's talking about. So I don't understand. I don't know how anybody couldn't laugh at that, just because it's one of those things where, stuff like that goes on, but you're just kind of like, one, these guys know they're mic'd up. So like, how far are they going to take it? And then two, you're kind of like a little surprised. They're like, oh, I'm surprised. Cause here's the thing. I think everyone needs to know that like everything that they get, all their footage, everything that's recorded, they don't air just whatever they think is the best stuff. I mean, there still is an editing process that goes on. The Cowboys have a say in it too. And so when stuff like that's left in, I'm kind of like, what are they cutting out? Cause it seems like they're putting in most stuff. I think the one area where, to me, just watching these first two episodes, I think that where they're really getting the editing say is like team meeting type stuff. And when I mean that, I mean more of like the coaches meetings and stuff. I wish there'd be more of that stuff. I wish there'd be more of the coaches talking about what they saw in practice and a player that caught their eye and things like that. And there's been none of that so far, but we have seen plenty of footage of in the coaches, room talking about Dak's injury. We've seen in the different position group rooms. So we know the cameras are in those rooms, but they're leaving out a lot of that stuff when they're talking about how a player's doing and things like that. That's the stuff that would really fascinate me.
So, John, we had David Hellman on recently, and we got to talking about Amari Cooper and just what an interesting cat he is. And David said that he's like by far one of the most, interesting people that he has a chance to talk to. I know you've had some quotes up as well on Amari, talking about his personality and whatnot. Do you feel the same way in talking to him, being around him, and just seeing how different of a cat, so to speak, he is?
Yeah, absolutely. I just, for the position he plays, it just is one of those positions where it seems like, there are other players that are like Amari where they just kind of let their play do the talking, but there's a ton of, especially the star wide receivers for a long period of time where a lot of times they're very outspoken, demonstrative, like they're the kind of almost like the heartbeat of the team. Certainly that was the case, 90s Cowboys and Michael Irvin, and just sticking with the Cowboys, you go into like T.O. and Des Bryant, and so you're used to that, type of wide receiver like that, is very vocal about, I want the ball in big moments, things like that. And it's the exact opposite of that, to the point where, like, I think it's great for CeeDee Lamb. I just don't see where Amari would CD back in any way. And I don't think it would bother Amari if CD had better numbers than Amari. And just how many number one receivers in the league can you honestly say that about? I can say most of them would probably say they wouldn't care, but actually wouldn't care if another player, especially only a second-year player in the team, put up better numbers than them. I really don't think that Amari does care, though. As long as they're winning and the team's playing well, I don't think it would be a big problem for him if CD stepped into, being viewed on the outside as that quote-unquote number one wide receiver. Like, Amari really does not seem to care about that. And on his play style, I think it helps because it doesn't really matter if the Cowboys are up a ton or they're down a ton. Like, he kind of is the same guy every single time. Like, remember that first year he was with the Cowboys, that half that season. I remember him having that one touchdown where like he did that celebration where everyone gathered around and he shot the ball through the uprights like he was shooting a free throw. And I just remember being like, wow, I can't believe Amari did that. It wasn't even really that big of a deal, but it's just like even something like that, other than just almost like a Barry Sanders type thing. Like you're almost surprised if he doesn't just throw the ball back to the ref after a touchdown. So I don't know. I think it's good for this team, to be honest with you. And here's the thing, like his lack of showing that passion, I think, is led to a lot of scrutiny about him, and it's maybe even factored into why the Cowboys were able to get him, and the Raiders were willing to move on. And obviously, he's a tremendous talent. I mean, just not only just what he did at Alabama and being the high draft pick, but we've already seen it with the Cowboys. I mean, there's not too many guys, if there are any, that are better route runners than Amari Cooper. So I think he's like the perfect fit for CeeDee Lamb. And I say that because this team really does have like two number one receivers.
John, swing tackle is still a huge question. Does Zach Martin really the swing tackle, and they really have like a swing guard in Connor McGovern now?
You know, Zach never said that he doesn't want to play tackle. You know, I mean, he played it at Notre Dame, but then since he's been with the Cowboys, it's been right guard the entire time. And, you know, that entire time has pretty much been the best right guard, you know, or one of, if not the best right guards in football during that entire time. So I think he feels most comfortable there. I think they would like to leave him there. So I'll say this. If, let's say, they start the season and Lyle Collins wasn't able to go in the opener, I think Ty Nsekhe would start. If things didn't go well, I think the contingency plan would be to move Zach back out there if they needed to, if it was just a disaster. But I think that they would prefer to leave Zach in that close to the middle. He can help with calls, working next to, Biotic and that, and then let Ty Nsekhe right tackle or even left tackle if it was for Tyron Smith. But Zach Martin's in there. He's in the conversation. He can be used at that position. I just don't think it's their first option. I think they'd rather go before they turn to Zach Martin.
All right, John, thank you very much. As always, John Machota, theathletic.com, covers the Cowboys with us most every Wednesday in the top of the 5 o'clock hour. That's John Machota. Now, take a break, come back. We'll open the phone lines up, Paul.
Sounds good.
254-339-1122. I want to alert you to, again, the story from Sam Bradshaw. It's in the premium section, but I actually think it's a free story on SicEm365.com. Stop the slander. AAC TV viewership doesn't equal to the Big 12 remains. In other words, the 8 remaining schools right now looking around or trying to figure out life. Stuart Mandel, theathletic.com, national columnist. We've had him on the show. He had written the story, but it was 2019 and 20 years. And so Sam Bradshaw went piece by piece. It's a great article. It's very complicated. It is very in-depth. It's very geek stat. But that's what Sam does very well.
And for example, if you're a TCU fan who is pointing to that Ohio State rating from last year and saying, see, we're wanted and we're very watched, it kind of shoots holes through those ideas. And it's no, that was more Ohio State than it was TCU, and based on this and that and this. I did have one note I wanted to bring up because this is going to be interesting to see how this resolves itself. Washington Governor Jay Inslee has announced a COVID-19 vaccination requirement for workers at schools, colleges, and universities. Inslee's office says that mandate will apply to Washington State football coach Nick Rolovich, who has, to this point, declined the vaccine. So don't have an opinion on that one way or the other, but I just think that's going to be interesting to see, what that eventually turns into. Because if he doesn't want to get it, was the governor telling him you can't coach football? You know what I mean? So that's going to be one to watch. Maybe it turns into nothing. Maybe he just says, you know what, screw it, it's not worth this. I'm just going to go get it. Maybe he fights it, and if he does, that'll really be something to watch. So
it'll be interesting. I think we're going to see the extremes go either way.
But it's what can you enforce? And you know what I mean?
I understand. You guys, but we've had great discussions, and sometimes we've walked off the set not talking to each other for at least 5 seconds. But one of the things that we have to be careful of is we still don't even know a lot. And that when you start to tell somebody what they must have, I understand it might be better, but we really don't absolutely know it all, because the target of what used to be signs of when you had COVID have moved.
and what the shot would do or what mask would do or what this would do. That's my only concern. Now you're kind of getting into you must do this.
Yeah.
Man, that's not what this country was built on. And I'm not saying that the guy might be right or wrong. I'm just saying, man, just kind of getting a little bit.
It just gets weird when you start to say, like, no, you must take this or you lose your job. Like, yeah, that's kind of strange. And so that's why I brought it up. I didn't bring it up to talk about whether or not you should take the vaccine. Right. I just brought it up because this is clearly a fight that people are digging their heels in on. And Nick Rolovich doesn't seem like somebody who's just going to change his mind because the governor of Washington said, no, you have to do this. He probably actually strikes me as a guy who will want to do it even less than he did before as a result of the governor saying that. So something's going to have to give there. He's either going to have to get a vaccine or what. And so that's why I brought it up, because that's going to be interesting, because there's going to be little battles like this that play out all across the country, not just in college football, but we are going to see some of it in college football with these requirements and mandates state to state.
Yeah,
so,
all right.
Just find it interesting.
You want to?
I'm going to bite my tongue.
No, go ahead.
I don't think I can get into it without getting in the weeds of my opinion on this deal. And I feel sad that the messaging on this has been messed up. But there is long-time historical precedent for people requiring vaccines to do things. This is not new. It's new maybe in the last 10 years, but you have to have all these vaccines to be able to go to school. I mean, like, COVID's not one of them, but our whole lives you had to have vaccines to get into a public or private school. When you were a kid, you had to have vaccines to serve in the Army. You have had vaccines to do things. So I do think that this is...
But the target is constantly moving with what we thought 14 or 18 months ago to what we know now. That's part of science and all that. I get it. It just seems like there's almost this rush to force us to do something. I did it. I told everyone I did. I wasn't going to do it, but I then realized if I was going to cover something, then it was my decision. Either I don't cover something or I don't, so I did it. But I just feel like it's almost as if you're on the other side of the fence and you're an anti-vaxxer. You are evil. Well, that's the kind of thing. It just seems like that's the landslide opinion.
I don't think people who are anti-vaxxers are necessarily evil. I think that
but you would agree that you would agree that there are a lot of media people that portray it that way.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think that they are wildly misinformed, and I think that's unfortunate.
But the target of all of what was said 14 or 12 or 16 months ago is moved constantly, right? The symptoms or what means you have it or what's good. I'll tell you this. I know that it's flared up again. I'm not an idiot. It's up to me to take care of myself. And I now, when I leave somewhere, wipe my steering wheel down or my phone I'm doing that again. It's not like I'm just blind to it, but somebody comes walking up to me and puts a gun to my head that says you have to do this. I get a little bit antsy about that.
And look, I understand that. The other thing is it's a very interesting philosophical conversation of where is it, like, as far as, like, if the government requires you to do it, like, one, where does it stop? And two, is this something that falls within some kind of other thing all entirely? And so I think that's issue. I do think, look, I'm happy that they're making people who work in hospitals do it, because I would rather, people who work in hospitals don't have communicable diseases. I think that's a reasonable thing. I think that I like what the NFL is doing and saying, like, listen, you don't have to get the vaccine, but we're going to make your life harder if you don't.
Right.
And because we don't want to forfeit games.
Which is what college football is basically doing.
And that's what they're doing. So, yes, your life will be harder if you don't get the vaccine. If you choose that life, okay, that's your choice.
And everybody's laughing like, I just think it's funny that, the people who aren't getting it are saying, well, just wait until you're, like, growing a third ear in 10 years. And the other side who's got it says, well, wait till you die from COVID in 5. It's like, and no one knows. No one actually knows what is going to happen in the next day, much less the next 10 years.
I was talking about this with a friend of mine today. I do think it's funny that NFL players are so mad about this. Like, basically, the NFL's telling them, like, get this shot and we'll pay you $50 million. Yeah. And they're like, what about my rights? They're like, well, look, if you told me $50 million, like, you can give me a shot anywhere in my body.
Everybody we've had on the text or chat room since we began this conversation, which we're going to wind down, is almost 50-50 split. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where we are.
Right, that's where we are. And again, I brought that up not to get into vaccine talk, but because of what we just talked about, it's going to be interesting because Nick Rolovich is going to have to get a vaccine, or there's going to be a big fight over it. So that, to me, is an interesting story because it is a topic that people just cannot have without, like, calling the other person a son of a bitch. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous how angry people get over it for whatever reasons. But like just this story in particular, I'm very interested to see where this goes because it is something that's on the mind of a lot of people. And Nick Rolovich has expressed his opinion before. So now the government's saying otherwise, and we'll see what happens.
Makes a hell of a lot of money. Makes a lot of money. He's got a decision to make. We'll see what happens with that. When we come back, we're not done. We're going to take calls, 254-339-1122. Also, a couple of other stories to get to in the world of sports. Paul's Top 5 in 30 minutes. Sikkim 365 Radio. I got a picture here from Waco Custom Marketplace. This is part of their Instagram page. I don't have Instagram, but I happen to look at this page, to print out the specials for this particular week. And in the background, my goodness, there's some delicious-looking beef jerky. They have that in the butcher shop in one of the counters. They have pork, poultry, seafood, and beef. And right now, they've got great bargains or steak prices. T-bone steaks, $8.75 a pound. Porterhouse steaks, $9.25 a pound. And then, of course, on top of that, I mentioned poultry, fresh chicken drumsticks at 99 cents per pound, and pork steaks, $1.99 a pound. And by the way, that's a really good meal. I love pork steaks. Father-in-law used to make them. Sometimes he would burn them, but he made them. They were delicious. A little barbecue on top with some mashed potatoes or baked potato and something else as well. Maybe a corn on the cob. 25% off all deli cheeses and 25% off on all board head lunch meat. Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Make this a summer event as rocking at Allen Samuels with the 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star with total values up to $6,250 or 2.9% for 72 months plus $2,000 in bonus cash. The 1500 Crew Cab has the top safety rating and is ranked number 1 in full-size pickup trucks. Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries. Celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas, our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Come see us at the new Baylor Scott and White Ted and Sue Getterman Sports and Orthopedic Center. Trusted doctors that Baylor trusts, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Notre Group Insurance Agency. With the Notre Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Notre Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Notre Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All right, 5:32 is the time. From Football on the Chat Room, David Smoak is not being 100% accurate. Why? Notre Dame is required to schedule ACC football teams. Not referring to 2020. Of course, they played a conference schedule. Look at the 21 schedule. Educate on the subject, David. Bad narrative. They're independent in football. They play 5 of their 12 games against the ACC. Are they required to? Yes, but they're not an ACC football team. If Notre Dame beats all 5 teams on their schedule this year in the ACC, do they win the conference championship? Are they in the conference championship game? No. Yes, they're attached to the ACC athletically in all their sports, but they're not an ACC football team. Last year doesn't count. They're independent, and we just had Pete Sampson on to tell us numerous reasons why they love their independence. Love it.
Yeah, they take less money from their TV deal than they could get.
When the expanded playoffs, if in fact whenever that happens, and you talk about the top 6 conference championship teams that will get in, will Notre Dame, in the current situation, be one of those 6 teams that gets in?
Well, they're not a conference champion, no. But if they're the 12th, like all they have to be is the 12th team.
No, but that's not my question.
No, they won't.
They will not be one of the 6 automatic qualifiers because they will not be, at least it depends on when that starts. Are they attached to the ACC and everything else? Yes. Did they win it last year? They lost to Clemson in the championship game, but they're not an ACC football team. They're not.
Yeah. And look,
there's a lot of teams that are independent or conference. There's certain ways you play certain conferences. You get clumped with certain conferences at times because of regionality. In Notre Dame's case, national.
Well, and look, like I said, part of the reason the Notre Dame thing works out for them is that, again, they just have to be 12th. They don't have to be 6th.
I'm confused about his angle here. What is like the what bonus is he picking?
What did you say? That my narrative that Notre Dame is independent is wrong.
Okay, well then he's wrong. Then he's wrong because there is a scheduling agreement with football for 5 or 6 games. I think they played 6 games last year, but no, they're not a full-fledged member of the ACC. I mean, that's without getting too in the weeds on it. I understand the point that guy's trying to make in some way, but as far as the false narrative that it's a false narrative that they're not an ACC school, no, that's not a false narrative. They're not they're not a full-fledged ACC school the same way Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, etc. are. So I feel like that's just that's a pointless fight, honestly.
And here's another one. Then we go to the calls. Football fans that throw around Notre Dame as an independent need to understand their ACC agreement obligation. In football, they're independent, period. And that's what we're talking about. And that's what drives the boat when it comes to realignment and or the college football playoff expansion.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, I understand the point of view they're coming from. I just don't think it's a fight really worth having, quite honestly, because it doesn't really matter. We're kind of getting into like super semantics here. And the bottom line is, I just think there's a pointless argument, honestly.
All right, let's go.
All right. Howard, you're on the Bet US caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, I love you guys. I love your topics that you're discussing. I just want you to, I wasn't going to talk about this, but just briefly, give me a second on the whole COVID thing, okay? I'm a healthcare worker, and I've been fully vaxxed because I have to be to do what I do, okay? But I just want to give you guys something to chew on, okay? When you go home tonight, look at the CDC site and explore this. Don't take my word for it. They're going to change the COVID test by the end of December because they're getting too many false positives. If you notice, the flu stuff is almost zero and the COVID stuff is all you hear about. It's because that test that we all took, and I used to take it every week when I worked at a prison, we were required to, was never meant to test COVID. The guy that invented it died, and what they did is they calibrated that test with bad cold germs and the flu. So that's, there could be, if this turns out the way they think it's going to turn out, there could be a lot of class action suits about COVID. The people that actually test positive for it could actually have had the flu or some type of horrendous bad cold. Now, I'm not saying there isn't anything like COVID, but if your immune system is compromised, you could die from the flu or a bad cold. So what I'm saying is why the goalposts always seem to change, it's the test. That's the problem. The test it's a screwed up test. That's all I got to say about that. Now can I talk about football real quick?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, please.
Okay, check it out. Go to the CDC site and see that they're going to change the test. And I bet you will find at the beginning of next year, you're going to see more people. You don't hear about people dying from the flu. You used to hear about it all the time because now all you hear about is COVID because the test is screwed up. Okay, now let's talk about Oklahoma. And I think they're going to benefit from going to I was listening to your segment on Oklahoma. The SEC for this reason also. One of my son-in-laws is from Cheney, Kansas, and he's a huge OU fan and has been for years, ever since I've known him. It's been a long, long time. And we always used to kid around that it seems like in football, OU always seems to lose like one or two games that they should win. And when they had a mythical championship, it would always screw them out of the national championship. You lose to K-State or Texas Tech, and then you would be bumped, and OU fans would get teed off. Me and my son-in-law used to laugh about this all the time. Now they end up in the SEC, which everybody thinks is the best football conference in the country, and probably is. You know what I mean? And they lose to Mississippi and Mississippi State. They're going to be in the college playoffs, and, it's going to be no big deal. But that thing, when we had the mythical championship and now we have an actual playoff that's expanded, that kind of is taken out of the equation. If you ever notice OU, they always used to lose to, a team they should have beat, I don't know. That's just my football angle. But
all right,
look at this COVID. Look at this COVID thing from the testing point of view and what the CDC is going to do.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you, Howard. We love you for listening and calls as everything else. Howard, he got a farm behind him, it sounds like.
Yeah, he's got a rooster going back there.
The roosters I thought were in the morning.
He's got to get that thing flipped.
That may have been a tape-delayed call or something.
He's got to get that rooster time zone.
254-339-1122. Well, he's in Oregon, so it's
it's still 3:39 in the afternoon. So I don't know. That's he's got a rooster. It's from England or something.
Yeah, Oklahoma. It'll be interesting. They did have on a regular basis a stumbling block, but that hasn't prevented them from getting into the playoff. Lose to K-State, but just run the table the rest of the way and they get in there. I think the expanded playoffs can allow teams with more losses to have an opportunity. I think we're going to see teams with 3 losses. So for Oklahoma, so long as they don't dip too far down below the level of play they've been playing at, they can afford to lose to, probably an Auburn and an Alabama so long as they, go beat everybody else on their schedule, which is going to be easier said than done. But, yeah, I mean, they've had a few stumbles, but, man, they're in that playoff pretty much every single year. And, we'll see if that remains the case. The playoff, whether it expands or not, will obviously have a lot to do with that. But I don't know. I'm confident that OU will be fine in the long run. I'm confident that Texas will be fine in the long run. I just think they're too big of a schools to make this move without, having their ducks in a row and realizing what they're actually walking into. Yeah. As far as the CDC test, I did look up a little thing. It wasn't that the CDC's original test was falsely picking up flu infections as COVID cases. It was just looking for COVID. It wasn't looking for anything else. Mm-hmm. And so now that's one of the changes that's being made, I guess, to maybe differentiate. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to read all of it, but that was the basic gist of why there's a change coming. And you're right that there's false positives all the time. I'm glad I'm not the one that has to handle all this stuff, because I can't even imagine what it's going to be like, or what it was like last year for schools and programs to have to deal with all of that. And they're going to have to deal with it all again this year, just with a little bit of a better grasp on things. And a vaccination in tow for those who choose to take it. But, yeah, it's not a problem that's going to go away entirely this football season. That's for sure. We'll definitely, I'd imagine, see a few canceled games here and there.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the phones. Chris in Missouri, you're on the BetUS caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Hey, I'll keep this short, and I promise not to get on a soapbox about the vaccine thing. I'm a former military member, retired from both the Gulf Wars. I can tell you I was a human petri dish with all the vaccines they've stuck in me. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing is I just hope we respect each other. The thing is, my brother can't go on a cruise with us because he's not taking the vaccine. I don't love him any less. I don't blame him. To be honest with you, it's his choice. And I know we're going towards a point where, they're kind of forcing the issues down people's throat. Just understand that it's not that person, it's the government's choice. And, life's hard enough. Let's not make it harder on each other.
Great point.
That's it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, man. That's a great call. You're absolutely. I
By the way,
agree
save
with
you. Thank you. By the way, anyone that has served our country at any time, no matter where you were and how long you served or still serving.
He's right, though. I mean, you talk about getting jabbed, soldiers, and the things that the various shots they've taken. Talk about experimental and whatnot or whatever. But I think you summed it up really well. Kind of the way I view everything. At the same time. So, appreciate the phone call.
Soldiers have to get shots for diseases for places they might go.
Yeah.
I mean, because you don't know, like, tomorrow you could wind up going somewhere and, fighting somewhere where you didn't plan when you originally signed up. So they have to have you covered for anything so that you're on a transport plane tomorrow. And it's like, well, they have this disease in this country, so here you go.
There was once, wasn't there? And I know my father may have been caught up in this as well. He was in Vietnam, but not for very long, about the concerns about some things with Agent Orange and some of the vaccine.
My father suffered through that. I mean, that was one of the things he did.
In half the time, I don't know what they were trying. They weren't trying to just shoot something inside of you. They were truly trying to protect you from some of the stuff you might run into.
Well, I will say one last thing on that phone call is it's kind of jarring to be that caught off guard by actual just respect. Like everybody's so used to like, you're not getting it, you're an idiot, or you're getting it, or you're an idiot. And I go on Twitter and like, man, I see the word vax, I just mute it because I just can't stand to see the fighting back and forth. And you just called up and blew me away by just being totally respectful of everybody. And I just, I commend you for that. It's almost gotten to be a rare thing these days, but it is appreciated by some people.
All right, 5:44 is the time. On the chat room, there's been back and forth quite a bit when it comes to the actual vaccine or not.
I knew that when I brought that up, that was probably what was going to happen. But again, my intention was just to say this Nick Rolovich situation is going to be an interesting one to watch.
Here's one that's interesting from Nick Barnett. I believe the Spanish flu was something like 27 booster shots.
Oh, really?
At one point. Golly. Ouch.
Yeah. It's a lot of jabs.
Man, can you imagine?
No, I don't want to. I don't want to imagine getting 27 shots. No, I don't want to think about that.
And then here's from someone who served that said something about the Middle East. at times there was concerns that it was basically just a hellhole when it came to possible viruses or things that you could catch. And that's not trying to be anti-Middle East and not somebody that served
Just
our
check
country
out
and what they were told.
Camera footage and see how a lot of those people are living. It's not an insult. It's just the reality of the situation. And, yeah, you go over to a foreign country like that where everything is massively different. And, yeah, there's going to be different diseases, different environments, different all that. So, absolutely, that's not an insult in any way. But yeah, it's going to remain a topic, even though expansion and realignment and all these other things have taken over a lot of the headlines. I do feel like we're going to have a couple probably big stories that emanate this season from either a cancellation or this Nick Rolovich thing, however that ends up happening, or whatever. That's definitely not a story that's going to entirely go away. But thankfully, it's not as prominent of a story as it was this time last year, and how much of a mess all that was. That is the one saving grace to this time around. And now everybody's all experienced it, right? They experienced that wave last year and what it was like to go through an entire sports calendar. And look, here in Waco, Baylor was as affected year-round as much as any program in the country for whatever reason. I mean, multiple football games canceled. Basketball had their break that some people feared was going to cost them a national title potentially, and it worked out in the long run. But yeah, that's definitely still going to be a part of the storylines, just not as major as it was of a talking point a year ago.
From Hatter 12, I keep hearing people say the Big 12 should get something with the ACC. Doesn't the AAC have a contract themselves with ESPN through 2032? We hear about the ACC's long-term deal.
Yeah.
There's certain conferences. The Pac-12 is coming up soon. We know the Big Ten, they just renegotiate. It's kind of like a football player who keeps getting better and wants to renegotiate. We know what the SEC's doing, and they're about to have the mothership, the motherload. And the Big 12 runs through 24-25, but there are some, ACC and the AAC, who have some that extend for at least until the next decade.
That could have been the motivation behind the supposed AAC to try to join, get the Big 12 to fold into it. That way ESPN already has a TV contract, and you're just like, well, here's what you get.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's exactly what they were doing, and that's what they don't want to go to court over. Because I think that Bob Bowlesby probably could prove that was the case. I mean, why would you take a bigger brand, and the Big 12 is obviously a bigger brand than the AAC, and take the bigger brand and then turn it into the smaller brand? Like, in what world would that normally happen?
Well,
basically never.
And you look at what...
But I know they're not as big a brand without Oklahoma and Texas, so there is that. Yeah. I understand that.
And you look at what's going on, if you want to ask, well, why would they do that? Well... why is Kenny May not on SportsCenter anymore? Why would you cut that guy's salary? He's one of the most popular television personalities. Well, it's because you're trying to save money. If ESPN can get the same thing that they had before for pennies on the dollar, they're going to do it.
Yeah, we were paying $10 per Iowa State, Baylor, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, etc. Now we're paying $4 per team. That's basically what ESPN's trying to finagle, and what's been behind a lot of this movement and behind what Bob Bowlesby called out a couple of weeks ago. So I don't know where that next chapter goes, but it's a great question. It's one I feel like I asked somebody this week, actually. Like in the last couple of days, we had somebody on, and I asked them, it might have been Max Olson, about that, because I'm curious myself. Why would the AAC teams go jump into the Big 12 if ESPN's on your side trying to bring the Big 12 to you? Like, if you're UCF, why would you jump right now to the Big 12 if you have a more secure home, actually, where you are, even though it's a step? You know what I'm saying? That's a great
one of the
question.
things when people talk about, whether it's Boise State or it's Houston or it's someone like that, or UCF, or if it's because right now,
I mean, you go
they
up
might
to be
be the ones waiting for someone to join them.
Yeah, you go up to be a Power 5, like before Texas and Oklahoma left. That makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, you jump up, you go join the Big 12, you have a really legit shot at the playoff if you're a good team and all that. But looking at it the reverse way, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense that if the Big 12's falling apart, and they're not probably going to be Power 5 for much longer, but the place you already are has a contract that runs for the next 10-plus years and is going to have a better shot at the playoff as a result of an expansion of the playoff, why would you move to this Power 5 that might not be a Power 5 much longer? What's your incentive?
I agree. By the way...
is the money going to stay high, or is it going to... it's a great question, and one I obviously have as well.
And Becky Hankins, who's been listening to us for a long time, years, She threw this at me. There's a link to Texas Monthly magazine that's about, well, of course, the state of Texas. But there's a story, Losing Our Religion, Texas's College Football Identity Crisis, written by Hunter Hampton, and that's her son. And so she shared that with me. I've got the link up. I'll try to read that. Becky, thanks for sharing with me. And that's got to be exciting for the family.
Congrats to your son.
And everyone else involved. And he's an
Becky
SFA.
is my neighbor.
He's an SFA history professor, so Axum Jacks. So we appreciate that as well. He's the author of that story. When we come back, Paul Catalina's Top 5, Sikkim 365 Radio.
BetUS.com. Look, why have we been talking about it? Because they've been serving clients for 25 plus years and prides themselves on being known as America's favorite sports book. Look, right now, you got 2 promo codes going that you need to use. Sikkim125 for cash or Sikkim200 for crypto. If you make a deposit $100 or over on BetUS and use promo code Sikkim125, 125% bonus if you use crypto, 200. So Sikkim125, Sikkim200. Remember those 2 codes. They've got action on every sport across the world, so they can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game. And BetUS offers the industry's bigger retail bonuses to keep their players betting longer, like, again, Sikkim125 and Sikkim200. And the BetUS loyalty program is legendary. They keep their players up to date with articles, players, teams, stats, trends, giving you the right tools to make the best wagering decisions. Again, BetUS.com, Sikkim125 and Sikkim200.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist's office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Marco's Pizza, get craveable pizza made the Italian way with dough made from scratch, an original sauce recipe, 3 fresh signature cheeses, and premium toppings you love, served hot and safe. Right now, you can get unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for just $6.99 each. Why stop at just one? Order with your app or at marcos.com for curbside, carryout, or delivery today. Marco's, pizza lovers get it.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more. Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment, and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55. Presented by Slapsticks Comedy Club. For ticket information, go to slapstickscomedy.com.
Before Paul gets to his top 5, tonight at 8 o'clock here on this YouTube channel, 365 Sports. Tonight, 8 o'clock Central, Paul Catalina and JT Piquel will have the big one, too, about the Big 12 Conference in football, 8 o'clock. There's numerous type of shows that we have, some that will start next week. The high school football show that I'll do every week about Texas high school football, among many other things as well.
Yeah, CJ Starr, by the way, coming up at Slapsticks this week. Top 5 scary playmakers in college football.
Pro wrestling show coming. TBD.
Yeah.
Don't tease everybody.
Yeah. TBD. Well, that doesn't say anything that's not true. It's TBD. Yeah. It's absolutely TBD. Top 5 scary playmakers in college football. Number 5, Master Teague, running back, Ohio State. This dude is a monster. He's going to have a huge year. He's on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, as a couple of these guys are, but a guy who is going to wreck it in the Big Ten this year. And if you see those pictures there, he's clearly carved out of some stone.
Yeah,
he's definitely one of those annual freaks that Feldman points out. Definitely been hearing about him for quite a while now. Cool name, Major Teague. That's just an awesome kind of name. But yeah, big expectations for him. Huge expectations for the Buckeyes, obviously. But yeah, definitely could see him as being one of the most anticipated guys this year.
Number 4, John Mechie III from Alabama. Looks this guy who got a little bit lost, could get lost in the shuffle last year, when they start the year with Jalen Waddell and Devontae Smith, who's the Heisman Trophy winner. But he's the next one in line. Not a big dude, not a guy who's, Amari Cooper size.
Devontae Smith wasn't a big dude either.
Yeah, Amari, Devontae Smith, he could rent one of those cars I got you in Iowa and be completely comfortable. When I get your Chevy Volt. Yeah, he's not a big guy.
Worst experience ever traveling.
Hey, it was cheap, man.
Worse than a red eye that gets canceled.
It was just you.
All right.
Just you in a suitcase.
Yeah, I mean, the next man up at receiver at Alabama, is going to be an absolute stud. He definitely took advantage of the injury situation to Jalen Waddle last year, and it's like, you lose Devontae Smith, and you're like, next. It's insane the amount of talent that they have.
Yeah. Number 3, Marvin Mims at Oklahoma, a great freshman year last year, and this is a guy who I think is going to dominate in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, he was very good early for Oklahoma, just as a young player, and now their receiver room's cleared out a little bit, some of it due to transfers, guys like Charleston Rambo, or some of it's the NFL with guys, a couple years back with the CeeDee Lamb types, but Oklahoma always has some solid wide receivers. He just appears to be like that next great one. You're right, and the flashes he showed last year, and then now you add another year of being in the weight room, and then what they can do with that offense. They've revamped their run game a little bit, Yeah, I expect Mims to have a monster year.
Yeah, number 2, Anais Smith from Texas A&M. This is a guy who can play all of the field. He's going to line up mostly in the slot at wide receiver, but he's going to line up at running back. He's going to do a ton of things for Jimbo Fisher in that offense. And last year scored a team-high 10 touchdowns. I actually expect that number to go up this year. And he's on an offense that has Isaiah Spiller on it, who's a dude at running back.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that quarterback question, you'd feel tremendous about A&M. And even with that quarterback question, you think you still feel really good because, as you pointed out, they've got some big-time players coming back. Spiller's definitely one of those. I feel like he's a little underrated still somehow. But
Spiller?
Yeah.
Oh, it seemed like he's got a good I don't know if he's a pro body as a running back because you never know because you got guys that
big. I mean, yeah.
He seems to me to be kind of he seemed very physical, but yet he can still take it the distance. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's always fun to watch the guys in college football that can do a little bit of everything. That's why Rondale Moore was a lot of fun. Not that he did a lot of everything, but he's so dynamic, and Anais Smith is super dynamic. He's a freak show. Had a huge year last year, and yeah, definitely one of the people to watch this season.
Yeah, number 1, the only defensive player on this list, but Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU. He's great in the kick return game, and you don't want to throw it over there. I mean, because it can go the other way in a hurry. He's going to be, I would assume, a top 5 pick in the draft if his trajectory continues on where it is. But he is a guy back there.
He's a guy?
Back. He's a guy. He's one.
Is he an alpha dog?
No, I'll tell you what.
He's an alpha dog.
He's one where after you throw it over there and the coach goes, "Why'd you throw it to that damn guy?
Yeah.
Like, why'd you throw it?" Like, that's what he's going to say.
He's one that may not end up with too many interceptions because not many of them are going to come his way for him to take back.
You know who's going to throw
the other way?
The only teams that are going to throw over there are like Alabama.
Yeah.
And A&M, like the ones who are super confident. The rest of the team, like, when Florida's there with Emory Jones, who's young, they're not going to throw over there.
Yeah.
I mean,
sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that's the beauty of the talent they have in that secondary. And Stingley, he's a top 5 like mock draft guy right now. I don't know. You know how that goes. I mean, unless you're like a Trevor Lawrence or something, by the time it gets there, there'll be some knock on him or whatever. But he's pegged as a top 5 type of player, rightfully so. Super talent. Super lockdown corner, and I don't know a lot about LSU in terms of like really what to expect this year, but I do expect Derek Stingley to be an All-American type player for the Tigers, no doubt.
Here's the thing about that Haynes King, who I hope is incredibly successful because I love the family and have known his dad for so long at Longview. He's going to throw a pass against LSU, and Stingley's going to take it the other way or pick it off. He's going to look at his coach and goes, I don't remember Pine Tree having those type of players, or maybe
Derek
John
Stingley's
Tyler.
There might be a Derek Stingley that. No, I don't even say that. There's been some corners come out of East Texas, but not
Bobby
a Derek
Taylor.
Stingley. Yeah, and that was 1990s.
Yeah. All right. Thanks to Hayden. Thanks as well, Hakeem. I hope you had a great time. Vance, former Baylor football player who's with us. Also Armstrong Sims and Jack McKenzie as well for Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak.
We got a media session in 30 minutes, so
Baylor
for
football,
you Baylor fans, we'll have some stuff up on the website here in the next hour to 2.
Thanks to every one of you on the chat room, even football. We love you, man. We really do. All of you, the text line, everybody, the sponsors.
I'm going to be out the next couple of days. I just want to say I hope it's as crazy when I come back after the weekend. Very much appreciate everybody out there all across the country and the world in some cases. Salute to you all.
Paul,
hope you
tomorrow,
have a good weekend.
I hope tomorrow we give a number of states we've heard from text and or calls. And the big one, too, don't forget 8 o'clock tonight here on YouTube 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak. Thank you. Good night. And enjoy the evening.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.